Okay, we're back live again. This is just so much fun. It looks like my chat and everything is still up there from before because, it at least looks like it's still up on the screen. Technical issues because, all right, so Eldest Bro from Discord, from Podcasted Server, he's been in the stream many times. One of the moderators, I should remove his wrench for this one. He showed me, he spent an hour with me helping me to set up my Streamlab for live streaming. And all seemed well. But for some strange reason, when I went to start up the stream tonight, it did not seem to take very kindly to me doing that. So yeah, it took me a little while to get going, and then I've had some streaming issues because apparently Streamlabs adaptive changing bit rate on the fly to keep you streaming, it didn't seem to work very well. So hopefully, let me try resetting chat here, because chat still seems like it's the old chat from the... Still a little wonky. Eldest has totally messed me up here. Where are you, Eldest? I need you to get in here and fix this, because my chat is wrong. It's from the other stream. Oh, man. This is totally goofed up here. At least put the words up there, StreamYard. Come on. Let's see. How do I do this? Wait, it's good now. Okay. Well, but it's the wrong chat on the screen. Okay. Reference. Still, okay, so it's good now. Well, look at this. It's now playing catch up. Knock on wood. Wow, this is now weird. The stream is now showing the chat before my chat display here. Okay, there's some voodoo going on here. All right, well, if anybody's still in the other chat on the stream that suddenly terminated when I hit the end stream button and then would not let me back in, then please do me a favor and let them know that where we are. I would be very grateful to that, because I have no way of getting in there. This is a totally new thing. Now, is my voice distorting or anything like that? Because I had to set my audio levels and everything in this program the way it should be. See your past and your future. Awesome. Well, cool. The chat is still there from the previous stream. So hopefully all is well now, and we will gather back the peoples that we lost before, I guess. Let me see. Where is YouTube dashboard? Let's go in there. And Streamlabs seems to show me some different information than is on YouTube. Okay, whatever. It says there is 2 people watching, so that means there must be people in the other stream. Everything seems good. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and just start, and hopefully we haven't lost too many people. But if there are people, if someone wouldn't mind going back into the other stream, I don't think anybody's still going to be over there anymore. I mean, I could try. Okay. we have some people would open up their live stream panel or something like that and get ready to actually be part of this live stream, only to find that I cancel that one, and then they might say, oh, well, he ended it, but I didn't end it. I just don't know how to use Streamlabs. This is my first time. Well, at least chat is on the screen. It seems to be working right. I have built some alert boxes and things like that will pop up for different things. I don't know. It's going to be great. Anyway, I use good old OBS, and it's never given me a headache. Streamlabs sucks, in my opinion. Well, I'm not too happy about it anyway right now. But you see, the issue that I had with OBS Studio is I wanted to have chat show up on the screen, and I couldn't get it to. I kept having to manually add it, and in a separate window and stuff. And so Eldest told me, it would help out. It would help me make a better looking stream, and I agree, except that it is not cooperating. So maybe I just don't know how to set up Streamlabs very well. Anyway, hopefully everybody's in here that's been on the other stream and are coming over. I mean, I guess I could try to see, well, without hopefully sabotaging YouTube yet again, we'll see if I can actually go over there to the previous stream, and if there's anybody waiting to see if I can restart that previous one, I don't think that I have access to that chat anymore. Oh well, whatever. People will find me, or they will say, you know what, this guy's an idiot. I've never streamed it. It's never given me a headache. Yeah. Well, that's the reason why, dude. It's how would this be a SoundSpeed's live stream, if there wasn't some sort of a weird technical issue that has nothing to do with sound? I mean, like, my sound should be okay. My level should be just fine. Tell me if it's not, though, and I'll make sure I fix it. So far, so good, no problems, and I don't have access to the old stream anymore either. Okay, good. Well, maybe I need to just totally remove it from the world, because, and what I'll do is I'll privatize it. Because if I privatize it, no one will see it. I will go, oops, wrong place. You're not able to see my screen right now. I'm going over, and since that stream would technically be there, if you're looking at the old stream now, then you see it, and now you don't. It is now gone. And so yeah, it is now gone to the world, and you'll never see it again. So yeah, good times. Sorry for the technical issues this evening, I guess I should say, because pretty much everybody who's going to be watching this is going to be watching it in the evening. Or if you're going to be asleep. And if you're asleep, then you're not here while this is live. So let me just make sure that everything is set up here. Yeah, we're good. We seem to be good to go. Awesome. All righty. Okay. So we have 4 people in here. And let's catch up on some of the chat. And then we will move forward. This actually worked out. I was dealing with a stubborn old dog. Needed to pee, right? When you dropped out of the other stream. Now I'm back. Okay, cool. Sean. All right. Well, when all purple, then green. Alien. Okay. You know what? I wouldn't know what that is. I would just say, you know what? I'm going to leave it at this point. Okay, so I think this is the question from Sean. I don't know, but I do have 2 questions that were sent to me via email this week, and I want to answer those questions before we get going on anything else. So first up, this is Sean's question, and I think he's in chat here, so we will go ahead and answer that. We have, well, look at that. I'm doing it right now. So it says, it's too small for me to read on the screen, but let me bring it up in my own thing. Hey, I got other things prepared, but not this right. All right, here we go. Sean's question is, thanks for all the educational content. That's not a question. I like the way the dynamic microphones pick up speech, but not as much background noise, especially with some mics on the market these days that are aimed at podcasters and live streamers. I have a podcast-style hypercardioid dynamic microphone mounted at my desk for recording narration tracks, and it has me wondering if there are ever circumstances when it would make sense to mount such a mic or any other dynamic mic like an SM58 on a boom pole instead of a shotgun to capture dialogue for video. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the subject in one of your Q&A sessions. Even better, if you could come up with some practical examples of why you would and wouldn't do this. Okay. All right. You said you have a podcast-style hypercardioid dynamic microphone mounted to your desk. Now, are there any circumstances you would want to mount it or any other dynamic mic on a boom pole? Now, here's the thing. And I did look at doing something like this a while back as a test, as a trial to see if there was a way for it to work. The thing about it is dynamics are not very sensitive. You have to be closer to a dynamic in order for it to pull out a voice. For that reason, it's not going to be great at picking up a voice, especially overhead booming, because at that point, if you think about it, right now I'm fairly close to this microphone. But if this is a dynamic, you would really want to have it closer to your mouth. Now, you may be able to back off on it a little bit, but then you have to gain it up a little bit unless you're extremely loud. If you go overhead with it, on a dynamic microphone, it is going to, first of all, have even more distance off of your head than a regular condenser would, because it doesn't have that sensitivity. It's not going to pull it out nearly as much. So if you do have even a supercardioid or a hypercardioid dynamic microphone, it's not going to be ideal because you're going to have to gain it up more in order to get it to push the air, because I have a video where I'm talking about the different types of patterns and the different types of microphones. And one of the things I mentioned is that a dynamic microphone is what's called a pressure operated microphone, meaning that and the analogy I always use is if you imagine something like, let's just use this cup, for example. If you were to cover this over with a balloon, vibrations, acoustic vibrations in the air are going to move and create vibrations in the air, and that's going to hit the diaphragm, which is going to convert it into an electrical signal, more or less. That's a general analogy that will work. A condenser microphone does not work that way. A condenser microphone is different. It's a pressure gradient microphone, meaning that there is basically a diaphragm, there's a back plate to it, and then what happens is it puts a voltage between the two of them, so that as a vibration hits the front diaphragm, it changes the voltage, and that voltage is shaped into an electrical representation of the acoustic vibrations it receives. And that's the reason why you need phantom power, 48 volts, or sometimes 24 or 12, in order to make that work. And so because it is self-powered, it has its own built-in amplification. And so if you have that, first of all, the noise floor of a condenser microphone is usually, a lot of them are in the early 30s, like around 32, negative 32 sensitivity, versus a dynamic, which is usually in the negative 50 or lower. So negative 50, like you mentioned, the SM58, I think is like negative 54. SM7B is negative 59. So a lot of people use that for tests. And there's some that are even less sensitive. So you're talking about at least 20 more decibels of gain. Now, if you watch my video talking about noise floors and the noise floor of dynamic versus condenser microphones, because that is the sensitivity, a condenser microphone is amplified. It's going to have a lower noise floor because it's not going to be riding the preamps nearly as much. Preamps, when they go up to add more gain, it's obviously increasing the noise floor in order to do that. And so you're not going to end up getting the best noise performance. And so if you end up gaining up a dynamic even more in order to pull out your voice from overhead, then it's going to end up giving you a higher noise floor. And you don't want to have that. So what I would say is, from playing around, I haven't had great experiences with a dynamic microphone as an overhead boom microphone. It does work, but it means gaining it up more. Dynamic microphones are also, if you need to get a little bit more air, it drops off a lot quicker than a condenser, because the condenser has a lower noise floor, so it's not going to push up and start hearing hiss nearly as early. So there may be a circumstance, like if you're screaming, yelling, even if you're shooting a gun, that you might be tempted to use a dynamic. But there's a reason why we don't do that anymore. Now, back in the day, and by this I mean a few decades ago, in film work, we did use dynamic shotgun microphones like the EV642 and 643. Well, no, not so much the 643, because it was like 7 feet long. But the 642 was a common shotgun dynamic microphone. But the thing about it was extremely heavy, very heavy. It's well made. It's metal. And if you put that on a boom pole, first of all, your boom operator is going to hate you and probably end up needing to go to the chiropractor every day. But second of all, it doesn't have the reach. Even a shotgun, like a dynamic microphone, like what they used to have, they would have to gain it up. And so if you listen to older movies, you'll hear a higher, it's a hiss. And you'll also hear a combination of the hiss on the microphone and the hiss of the tape that was recording it. And then there was some stuff that they could do with noise floor, basically by using the room tone to help negate some of that, but you can't get it all out. And when they found condenser microphones, like the 416 and the 816 were two very early common shotgun microphones used in the film industry, then those became very popular because they had better reach, they had better noise floor, and they weren't nearly as hissy. So what I would say is, you don't necessarily want to use a dynamic on a boom pole. You can try it if you want to, but I think you'll find that you'll have to play with too much gain, and it's going to introduce too much hiss into your signal. So there is the answer to that. Let's see here. What happened? Okay. Let us know when you're ready for the questions. I just got flashbacks to that DIY high school project video. Yeah. except that theirs had all kinds of issues. My ex had two EV644s, so shiny they looked like sci-fi blasters from the 1970s. Yeah. I do have, well, that's 644s. I think I used the 664. So I was going to say the EV664 is the one I was referring that I have a series about, and that series is called can I destroy the EV664? Something like that. It started to get in bad shape. It still worked, and I did reach out to Electro Voice after I turned it into my Yule log for my epic live stream on December 30th last year. But what I wasn't able to do was recover it enough to make it work because the connector completely melted. Now, I did reach out to Electro Voice and ask them, how much would you charge to fix my 664? And I don't know if they watch this channel or not, or if they just did not decide they wanted to respond, or they're like, oh, you know what, we can't replace such an old microphone, because they didn't reply to me. It's been, at this point, over 8 months since I wrote to them. I could tweet them and say, hey, can you fix my vintage 664, and see what they do, and then reburn it again for the epic live stream this year. I mean, I could, but I don't want to do that. I actually like the way it sounded after I fixed the connector. I actually fixed the connector on the bottom. I think it was called an amphenol connector that's on the bottom. It was a 4-pin, and I used it in that video that I made called how to test a vintage microphone without the right connector, or something like that. Anyway, I used that microphone. I used that video and the pins that I made on that cable in order to test the microphone and verify it worked when I received it, because the cable was terrible shape. Well, after the first video where Michael Wynn used it as a hammer and dropped it a few times, it still worked. But the cable, I found that the connector was making some noise and some issues because he dropped around the connector. So what I ended up doing is I made it into an actual, I basically made the cable, clipped the end off of it, used the amphenol cable, wired it correctly, and then it ended up working so much better after that. So yeah, there's that. Okay, real quick, I see Colin is in here, and he said earlier, MKH 416 King. Now, he and I were going back and forth because he did comment in my Mass Mics 14 video that for the first time in over 2 years, I actually did a Mass Mics episode. And that was because Liberty Dew, who just posted in here, he commented on episode 13 and said, hey, it's been over 2 years. Where's the reveal? I'm like, you're right. I even have the footage. So that's the reason why it was old footage on my old background. And you got a chance to see that in a thinner Alan, because admittedly I put on some weight since that video was shot a couple of years. And there was even somebody posted in the comments and said, did you note, I think it was Colin again, he said, did you notice Alan lost a few pounds between the first test and the second test? I'm like, well, thank you for that, but I don't care, whatever. 416 is king, though, you say. Well, the thing is, and you said for $1,000, and the thing about it is, it depends on your ears. The 416 is very bassy to me, and I understand the acoustics. I understand the way it works. It's very, very good sounding microphone. There's a reason why it's bulletproof, and the film industry loves it. That's why it's used for voiceover. That's why it's used for ENG, and there's many people that say if you don't have a 416 in your kit, you're not a mixer. You're not a proper sound person if you don't have a 416. And I understand that mentality and that thought, but the thing about it is, there are microphones that to your ears will sound better. And there aren't just all expensive microphones too. There are very good microphones that are under $1,000, but the trade-off that you have is that if it comes from a place that's making things very inexpensively, then they may sacrifice quality on parts. Now, Sennheiser does do a lot of their parts in-house. They source things. They're very good at what they do. And when they created the MKH series, it was like gold. They created it and it worked really well. And then the Sennheiser, they were like doing the 805, the 806, the 815, the 816, 415. They had all these different ones in the MKH series. But part of the reason why they created the MKH series is because the idea, and you can read the MKH story. I believe the Sennheiser, if you do a search for the MKH story, Sennheiser MKH story, it will tell you all about the history of them. And I thought about doing a video where I read it, but then I was like, you know what? It's their property. I can't really do that. And not really read it, but you know what I mean? Go over basically and use their thing as research. But I didn't want to do that. I was like, at one point, I think I posted it so that way people can read it if they wanted to. But it's like, it's still their property. And I didn't want to just steal their product without permission, or their write-up without permission. But you see, to me, the 416 is way too bassy. I mean, I acknowledge it sounds good. And yes, it does sound cinematic, that word cinematic that people love using regarding sound. But the thing about it is, to me, there's a reason why my favorite microphone is a DPA 4017B. It is the most detailed microphone that is flat. And if you start to back away, it shows you that person is backing away acoustically. It doesn't overboost and bring out too much low end. To me, it sounds very natural. I love the way it sounds. I love the reach on it. It just sounds very well balanced. I love the way it sounds, but it is something that if you're used to the bassy for the 416 or the MKH50, something like that, then it's going to sound like there's probably something lacking, because I've introduced many people to it and they always say the same thing. They're like, wow, it sounds like it's lacking. But if you give it a couple of, hours or even a couple of days, you'll say, you know what, this does sound very detailed without being overly, the equivalent I use is like, there's crisp sharpness and there's warmth. When it comes down to pictures, if you take a picture into Photoshop, you can bring up the sharpness to the point where everything has such a strong, sharp outline around it that everything looks like it's overly sharp. It's like all it is outlines on like a drawing or something like that. It looks ridiculous, but you can take it down and it's going to be sharp and crystal clear. Same kind of thing happens if you have a really good quality glass on your camera. You have a very good sensor, and a big sensor at that. So it's going to be very, very sharp when you dial in on the focus on that. It's going to look very, very sharp and very good. Microphones can do the same thing. They kind of dial in on the sharpness. Some of them decide they want a little bit more warmth. Some of them go for more of a sharpness to them. Back in the videotape world, I used to always use the BASF is what I always called it, but BASF because the Fujis were overly sharp a little bit to me. I liked the warmth from the Scotch BASF videotapes, because it may not have been as sharp, but it had a warmth to the color that I really liked. And there's nothing wrong with Fuji color for a reason, but to me, that's the difference. If you want to accept that the in the world of sound, the 416 is more of the warm type, it's more of the Scotch BASF, and the DPA 4017B is more like the Fuji. But with sound, I prefer that personally. So you say you like the 416. Hey, dude, don't let me yuck your yum, as we say, because it's a great sounding microphone. But to me, I would prefer to have a more detailed sound and then let I would let post boost up or EQ it how they wanted to, or adjust it however they needed to. That's just me personally, though. So anyway, studio voiceover requires low self noise, while live stage with the ambient sound, not as much. In film and television, does knowledge they are going to add ambience make a difference? Sometimes it does. And I know what you're talking about in live stage work, because I mean, I did sound for shows on stage. As a matter of fact, one of the first shows I ever did sound for, I lobbed up a girl on a chorus line, and I was part of the sound department for the chorus line, and I lobbed up one girl who, she did not like the fact that a boy, a ninth grader was the person lobbing her up. She did not like that a bit, because, let the truth be known, she didn't like me that much. I don't know why. I don't know if what I said or did or something like that, but at some point, I guess she just decided she didn't like me. And so since I was her sound guy, she was like, you'd see that look on her face when they assigned me to her. And she was like, tell you what, just give it to me. She had a person that was helping her in the costume department. She's like, she'll help me, all right? And just verify that it works later. I'm like, okay, that's fine. that's fine. And I would just stand back, and I didn't understand the protocol and stuff that I understand now for laving people. But so a ninth grader is not going to handle that the best, I guess you could say. But, and I know that she'll never watch this video, but regardless, I do apologize to that, Audra. It would be a lot different if it was happening now, or if I was an adult responsible for laving up a 16-year-old girl. I would definitely know the proper protocol right now, and I would involve the wardrobe department almost exclusively, and I would handle things totally different. But regardless, that is in the world of stage audio. I remember running, there was a sequence where it was a West Side Story. I was doing sound department for West Side Story, and somebody pulls out a gun, points it, and it's Tony, well, spoiler alert if you've never seen it. Anyway, there's, it's at the very end of it. I won't say anything more. It's not Tony. It's, I was saying the wrong character name. There's a shot where someone shoots somebody. And there was really no way for me to time it with their tape deck. I had the sound effect in that, but in order for me to bring it up to the proper level, I had to bring it up loud, and all of a sudden the speakers you hear like that, the hiss of that tape deck would go up really, really loud. And if I tried to use the sound effect from the CD player, it was better. The problem was that CD player had a mind of its own, and I'd hit play, and sometimes it wouldn't take. If I hit play, sometimes it would jump a track and then hit play. I'm like, no, stop doing that. And that made for a fun story I could tell you if you're really interested. But and if you are, tell me in the comments so that way I remember. But bringing up that tape, that taped hiss, what I could do is I could rewind the tape all the way, hit stop, hit play, go 0, 1, 2, 3. And as soon as I would hear it, I would hear the control track, or not the control track. I would hear the tape hiss come in from a recorded sound, because you basically recorded it off a CD player, and I had it down to a science where I knew I knew the timing of it, and so I could bring it down, and then right before that gunfire would happen, I would go bring it up really loud and go boom, like this, and you'd hear the boom, and the trail off, I would bring it back down. By no means was it great. But what I ended up having to do, because there was no way for me to be able to prejudge where the actors were going to be and how it was going to happen, because I had to time it from when I heard that control track sound, or the hiss on the tape deck. And when I would hit it, sometimes it would because when we were in rehearsal, he would take it out. He just brought the gun out and shot. There was no way in like a second I was going to be able to trigger that tape. So what I ended up doing is I asked the director, and I was like, look, I can't with the equipment I have here do it. Can he like do a big, huge lineup? And that way he kind of puts it down there. And then when he hears the boom, react to it. And we tried that. It worked so much better. The guy that was playing the guy that was doing the shooting, he was able to hear the boom and go, like this. And then they all acted accordingly. So there was never a time when he would bring it down and then it wouldn't happen, or his reaction, he'd pull the trigger and nothing would happen, and then you'd hear the boom. It never happened that way. He would react to the actual sound, which was better. And it also sometimes made, when you hit play in theater, and something is supposed to happen and it doesn't happen, you're like, every second is like a minute. And then if it's more than a couple of seconds, it becomes 5 minutes. And you're like looking at this like, where's my sound? Where's my sound? Because the action has happened and you're waiting for the tech to play catch up. And that was stressful. But the good thing is the actors were able to play that off. And I tell you, it was pretty cool, because a couple of times he would go over, he'd line up, and it hit play. And this was, I should also mention that this came right after another sound cue. I had to do another sound effect, another sound cue, and then I had to quickly take that tape out, take another tape in, and because I never knew exactly where it was starting again, hit rewind, hit play, and then, that was the cue up. There was not multiple tape decks. It was a small community theater. But I say small, but yet they still had like, a few hundred seats. So I hit play, and I'm watching his hand drop into position. I'm like, go, 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 go. And finally it goes. And so, like I said, like 10 years passes since his hand drops down. And it's very stressful in that circumstance. But what was funny about it was they were like, oh, that was a really cool effect that you gave it a little bit more before the sound effect came in. I'm like, what do you mean it was a cool effect? And they're like, well, it was really cool because it was like, it built the drama. Like, is he going to shoot? Is he not? I'm like, yeah, awesome. And they're like, was it intended? I'm like, oh no, not with this gear. It wasn't, man. I hit play, and I was just watching it and listening. I was like, there he goes. There's the hiss. 1, 2, 3, and I had the timing, and I was counting it down, watching the action on the, in front of me on the stage. I was like, go, 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 go. Anyway, so, so in the world of television, it's a little bit different because that if you're getting a sound stage that's completely quiet, that's going to be, they're going to add atmosphere. They're going to add, if you're in a bar, for example, they're going to add pool cues. They're going to add, maybe a general chatter behind. They're going to be adding maybe someone playing darts in the background, something along those lines. There could also be music if you're shooting in a nightclub, for example, and that there's going to be some things like that. That also helps post to actually digitally clean stuff up, because the same kind of thing is what happens with dithering. You know how if you have a post has a very low noise floor. Like if you have an audio recording with a very, very low noise floor, you can hear, if you have a low enough bit rate, you can hear the digital modulation of very low sounds. You can hear that. So what dithering is it adds a little bit of a constant noise behind the audio, kind of like a hiss, to cover up that digital modulation. That's the general idea behind it. And so when you are talking about post, they don't have to worry about that kind of cleanup, because they know that once they clean it up, they can actually be a little choppy with it if they need to, in order to pull out dialogue better, even if it means, cutting in on some frequencies they wish they didn't have to, because it would sacrifice maybe for some of the other background noise, but then they know they're going to be adding ambience. So at that point, they know that it's going to cover up some of their mess. And that's a good thing. I have done, I think I even did a video about this. I don't remember the name of it. If anyone remembers it, you can put it in there. But it was a little post cleanup trick where what I did is I took the actual audio track, which you could call, I guess, the dry, and then I did a whole lot of noise reduction to it in the background. And what I basically did is I cleaned it to the point where it was like overly clean and scrubbed. It was like it was lacking some, and that would be the wet. And then what I basically did is manually added one to the other. And what it did is when I started with the ultra sharp one and I added in a little bit of the other, it started to smooth out some of the lower frequencies. It started to fatten up some of the overly cleaned up, scrubbed version. And it sounded really cool. And it turned out to my advantage. And when I learned that trick, it actually helped me with some things that I did. And so I ended up doing a video about that where I talked about that. It was a really cool little trick. I don't remember what it was called, but it's one of the few post cleanup videos I've ever done. But to answer your question, finally, now that it's been forever, I need to see if I can turn on timestamps here. Otherwise, yeah, toggle timestamps. There we go. If I'm on set though, I want it quiet. I want it to be the lowest possible noise for it. And if there is a sound there, I'm going to try to shut it down. If you are using analog transmitters on a wireless boom, you're going to have a low enough noise floor. But if you can go digital, you're going to have an even lower noise floor. And then you're going to hear even more noises, because that's what we always do in the sound department is we pick the things that are the loudest. Then we shut that down. Then we pick the next thing that's the loudest and we shut that down. Then we pick the next thing that's the loudest and we shut that down. And we constantly do this over and over again until it is dead quiet. The problem that we run into is that everybody in the world is trying to work. So we can't go around and we have to kind of use a sixth sense to determine what is going to make noise and what isn't. If it's a mechanical or an electric device, I'm going to presume it has fans in there. And so as I'm walking around in like a restaurant or something like that, I know that the kitchen's going to be a big source of something. They're probably not going to be able to shut down a deep freeze. But if there's multiple refrigerators in the front of the building, in the front, like where the the chefs are cooking, I'm going to ask if they can move all of that stuff to a deeper, like a deep freeze. And they'll usually say, yeah, we could probably do that. Sure, just give me a few minutes. And they'll move all the stuff from that refrigerator. They'll put it on different, rolling trays, and then they'll move it into the deep freeze. And they'll go back there, because that way it's just one refrigeration unit that's running. All the other ones they can shut down. And it works great for us. We're renting out a facility. They'll usually accommodate us if we are doing it adequately. So anyway, there you go. There's your answer about noise floors and stuff like that. I'm going to always listen for the sound, especially when it gets quiet. I'm going to try, I'm going to say, can we please rehearse? Because if they do rehearse, which they don't always anymore, I'm going to push for that, so that way I can get the noise level, the very lowest I possibly can. And then I can say, whoa, where is that? Is that a wine cooler that I'm hearing? Is it in one of these drawers? And then I start opening up all the drawers. I'm like, oh, look, there's a hidden wine cooler. I need locations to shut this thing down, because there's no on-off switch on some of these things. So I'm like, whoa, there's a fan in the ceiling that we didn't hear before. And then we have to shut that down. Or that's when it finally gets quiet and you're like, oh, that's the outside, fan on top of this skyscraper. There's no way for me to shut down the air handlers in the skyscraper. So you're kind of stuck there. Do I have any experience using Okatva microphones? I have an Okatva MK012 pencil condenser that I like a lot. Yes, I do. When the sound mixer I'm working with right now, originally, when he didn't have the money at that point to buy the Sennheiser MKH50, he was using the MK012. Now, we're using it with the hypercardioid capsule. Now, here's what I'll tell you about the Okatavas, and I do like the way they sound. But if you use them a lot, here's what my advice is to you. Go to billsrecording.com, because Bill does modifications to Okatva microphones. I don't know how much it is to modify your current Okatavas, but he will modify the preamps, the preamp circuit. He will modify the actual the microphone itself and make it sound better. He'll suddenly take the reach from maybe here and double it. It will sound more like a 50. It'll have a lower noise floor. It's going to have more power consumption in milliamp hour, but it's not going to be like, 50. It's going to be, it might take it from around whatever it is to maybe doubling it. But I tell you, it makes it sound a lot better. I A/B'd him when he was like, I'm going to see if this mod works on it. And he sent it away. I think it was like $100 back then. This is over 10 years ago. He sent it out there. Bill did the fix on it. Sent it back. It had the premium parts. It wasn't any heavier than another one. But I tell you, I listened to this one. I'm like, okay, this is the one I know how to push the frame on and make it sound good. And then all of a sudden we switched out. I'm like, whoa, that sounds so much better. Now, Bill also buys them brand new, buys the Okatavas. He does the modification on them, then he sells them. And if I buy some Okatavas, which I'm thinking about, I am going to buy from Bill, because I would buy the multi-kit with an omnidirectional, a supercardioid or a hypercardioid, and a cardioid. And depending on how I feel like, I might get the large diaphragm too, something like that, just to play around with. But Bill does wonderful work. And if you are going to be using the Okatavas, I strongly recommend the Bill mod. Bill's recording, I believe it is .com. What I'll do real quick is I'll find it and I'll post a link. Oops. Oh, it helps if I spell it right. Why would I spell recording with an R? I spelled it ROCORDING. Now I spelled it RI. Man, where's my brain? Okay. Yeah, Bill Sittler. Okay. And I'm going to post this in the chat so that way you can see billsrecording.com. He does wonderful work. I highly recommend his work if you are interested in the Okatva. He does wonderful work. Love it. Okay. So let's look at this. We have I like a fun story. Oh, what was I talking about? It was a chorus line. Doing the sound for a chorus line. Well, I think I actually ended up telling it because I was talking about changing tapes and having to take a tape out, quickly queue up another one. Sometimes there were downtimes. This wasn't Hamilton I was working on. I was able to take a tape, play the sound, but then I would have to rewind it quickly. Oh, no, I didn't tell this one. I think I told it in another story, though. Another stream. I'll tell it again. But we had a CD player, and I didn't want to prepare tapes that was a sound effect after another sound effect after another sound effect, and then look at the little, 0000, 4 zeros, and then count it like, oh, the sound effect is, if I rewind it all the way and then I hit reset on it, then the first sound effect is going to be at 0002. The next one's going to be at 0014, and then the next one's going to be at 0022. I wasn't wanting to do that. So because it didn't sound right. This is in the tape era, recording a CD onto a tape and then playing it over the big sound system, which a lot of theaters, what they do is they boost up the amps really, really loud. And so that way you hear that coming through the speakers. If you bring down the level, it's not going to be nearly as loud. If you bring it up really, really loud, you'll hear that hiss, but you're going to constantly hear a hiss noise coming out of those speakers. So what I was trying to do is use the CD player as much as I could. Now, that CD player that they had was a weird creature. I'm going to see if this alert thing actually pops up right. Because, I built it. I see the thing in the chat. Thank you, by the way. SRALID. What is it? I'm sorry. I'm going to butcher your name. Suralidar? I'm sorry, I'm butchering your name, and you gave a $5. There you go. There it finally popped up. So thank you very much for the super chat. I appreciate that. It popped up on my screen and didn't actually go through, but I built that. Awesome that. So anyway, didn't Bill retire from modding recently? I was not aware of that. His website's still up. I may need to go ahead and buy something off of his site, hoping that I get it, because I didn't realize he was retiring from modding. If he did, Liberty, believe me, I will be buying, as soon as this stream is over, I'm going to go and buy something, straight off of his website, put that credit card to use, and buy something, buy one of his Okatva sets, because I was not aware of that. That's very disappointing if he's modded, because I keep mentioning him in his work. But anyway, let me get back to my story before I get too far distracted. It's a made-up character name from Dungeons & Dragons. Oh, I used to play D&D. I'll have to tell you some stories. If you want to hear some D&D stories, I'll tell you. Just tell me in the chat. But I do have one more question I want to answer first. Let me finish my story, though, that I'm terrible. It's like squirrel. What was that? So the CD player we were using, it had a mind of its own. It had a display on the screen that would only go up to, I think it was like 20. But if you use a CD, a CD that actually had more than like 20 tracks, you could hit the 1 through 20 buttons or 1 through 14, whatever it was, and it would instantly jump to that track and hit play. The problem that we ran into is if you it was an early CD player, so if you stuck the CD in, you had to give it a moment and let it just kind of like, oh, I see there's a CD here. Oh yeah, it's an audio CD. I can work with this. How many tracks do you have? You have over 20. Okay. What do you want me to do? And then you're like, and if you rushed it, it was like, oh, hold on a second, dude. I'm just going to shut down. And it did not know. And so you had to stick a disc in there, hit, hit the close tray button, and then you had to hit, pause, because it would instantly start playing. And you're like looking at it, you're like, come on. And it would just be like so slow. And the CDs that we had with sound effects were like 101 sound effects. So it had 101 tracks. And I would be like, looking at it. And if I had to queue up a number, I was like, okay, if you hit the button too many times, it wouldn't respond. If you hit it too many times. So I had to put the tray in there, had to hit pause. And as soon as it was playing, I'm like, okay, good. It's playing, it's pause, play. I'd hit 20 or whatever the top number was. And then once it did, it would go through. I would then go at track advance 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 30. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 40. Because I think one of them was like 78 or something like that. And so, I got all the way up to what the track was I needed. And if I did it slow enough, it would go through. If I did it too fast, it wouldn't go through. So I got it up to where it needed to go. And then I would say, okay, great. Because the display would basically say like dash dash or something like that. I forgot exactly what you're talking like almost 30 years ago. I don't remember what it said on the screen, but it displayed that it was over 20 tracks or whatever the maximum track whenever was. And I'm trying to keep track of it mentally and go advance. But I remember putting the CD in because I had a fast change. I had to change from this CD out, put another one in there real quick. And I remember looking at it and saying, okay, play, pause. And I'm like, I got to make this cue work. Got to make it go. And I hit play, pause. And then I'm like, advance. And I would get up there and then I would always hit, bring the track down. I'd hit cue on it, hit play. And as soon as I'd hear what it was, I think it was that gunshot, I'd rewind and then get it queued up. This is the reason why in the rehearsals, and I said I played it off of a tape, and that's me not remembering correctly. It was a CD. When I'd hit play, it would suddenly say, oh, you want to play this track? This like really high one. Okay, fine. Then I hit play. So there was always a pause and I could never gauge what that was. So it wasn't a tape delay. I'm not remembering correctly. I apologize. So the CD, this is, I'm now remembering the story as I'm going through. So anyway, I'd hit the play button and I'm watching it. I'm watching him play. So the guy dropped the gun into place. I'm trying to hit play. Sometimes his hand would barely come into drop in position. The thing would say, hey, I'm going to go ahead and hit play. Sometimes it would take a moment and before it would find it and hit play. This one day, though, I took the disc out, I put the other disc in, I hit pause, and I'm watching it, and it's just initializing. It's not going through. I'm like, come on, do it. And it's not responding. So I'm like, if I sit here and watch this thing blink, I'm going to miss my cue. So I hit eject on the CD and let it sit out for a second. I hit it again. At this point, I'm looking at the time. I'm like, oh, I know exactly where it's coming up. We're getting close, and I can't rush this thing. So the disc goes in, and I'm like, good, it initialized. Fast forward 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because remember, if I can do this pace, it's probably going to be too fast, and it's going to skip one. But if I go this pace, it's going to acknowledge every single one of them, and it doesn't display what track it's playing. So at this point, I was starting to get to the point where I was nervous because I saw that they were just about to do the gun sequence and I'm pressing the button, and I was just about to hit play on it and say, I'm not going to bother previewing yet. There was the sound guy, about to just trust it. And I tell you, I looked at it, I just, that sinking stomach feeling, and you're like, something's not right. And you just feel warmth running through. It's like, oh, no, something's not right here. I brought I'm looking at him, and only he'll have like 3 or 4 seconds left. I'm looking at him like, okay, I'm going to do it. I brought the level down. I hit the preview, pause, I hit play, and it was the track right before, ducks quacking. I quickly hit pause. I advance up one more, hit play. It's the gunshot. I hit pause, rewind, and that queued it back up. If you were at 0 seconds, it would rewind to the previous track. If you waited until it showed 1 on the screen and then you hit rewind, then it would restart back to the previous track. So if you hit play, play and you heard the gunshot, you hit pause real quick, but it is not 001 on the screen, you better hit play again, let it go into 1 second, then hit pause, then hit rewind. Otherwise, it's going to go back to the ducks quacking. So I hit play and I hear the ducks quack, and I quickly, hit it, advance to the next track, hit play, gun, good, pause, rewind. And then right at that moment, I hit the play button, brought it up, and it was the gunshot. And I'm sure he had his hand. I was too busy. I'm sure he had his hand out for a while at that point. But could you imagine watching a play like West Side Story? And this is the emotional peak of the entire play. And it's like just about to go off where the dude's going to shoot. He drops his gun into position. Quack, 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 quack. I would have destroyed that entire show if that would have happened. That's why you always want to preview your tracks. Luckily, we're much better now. You can play everything off of, trigger something directly off of a cue. This is the WAV file. Hit that and play it instantly. You don't have to worry about any of this stuff anymore. Okay. Okay, Eldest, I'll talk to you about that in a second. All right, let me back up a little bit here. It was a fun story. Okay. Okay, so glad that doesn't happen anymore. QLabs software is so much better, and the stereo version is free, Mac only. Well, I don't use Macs. Slim Racing now, but it's done in 40 to debate you on the 416. Slim Racing now, but I'll be done in 40 to debate you on the 416. Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. So at 10:30 my time. So 20 more minutes to shaking my boots. With Alan's sound outfit, you can sneak across the street and shut down the power in a skyscraper, and they'll turn off the roof fan. Yeah. Except that I don't do the dirty work. I send the locations department to do it. And remember, locations people are teamsters. They have the most powerful union in the country. So always treat your locations people right, because you don't want to lose it with them. Because if you do, they're teamsters. They'll remember it. They'll make your life difficult. They'll say, oh, we can't shut that down. Nope, can't do it. Can't shut that down. All of a sudden, if they tell any of the teamsters, all of a sudden your trailer is 3 miles from set, and yeah, sorry, we can't get anywhere closer, dude. And no, sorry, and there's no snake beds available this time. Snake beds available at this time. You're gonna have to push. You're gonna be pushing for half an hour, and I've seen it happen. People will make a teamster mad. It's no biggie for them. They'll say, oh yeah, oh sorry, dude, you're a little far away. There's no snake bed available. You're pushing. Anyway, so Liberty, I'm going to have to put that $5 donation from, I'm going to try to say your name again, Seraladar? Maybe that's it. Did I get it right? Seraladar? You said it's a Dungeons and Dragons thing. So it says, hello, suggestion for my mid-high-end indoor dialogue mic for a small room with light acoustic treatment on a high-pitched male voice. So when you say a high-pitched male voice, is it kind of like mine? It's like high enough to interfere with the flight patterns of bats. Is it that kind of high, like mine? Because I know that if you watched the live stream the other day, my daughter had a deeper voice than me. Any suggestion? Now, if you don't think that, it's probably because she was farther away from the NT1 that I was using for her, and this one's like, right there. It's pretty close. And it's still out of my face. I don't have to worry about it being in my face, but I know the way I sound. I know if I go off mic, it's like right there, I'm off mic. But if I back up a little bit, it goes back on mic. But I know where my movements are. I've done this enough times. For a mid-high-end indoor dialogue microphone for a small room with light acoustic treatment on a high-pitched male voice. So, Sraladar, what are you recording? What are you doing? Are you doing gaming? Are you doing voiceover? Are you, when you say light acoustic treatment, are you talking about like 2-inch foam pads? Are you at a desk where you have this big, huge surface right here and you have the acoustic panel up over there? Because all of this matters. And the reason I say that it all matters is because acoustically it does. If you were, and as a matter of fact, I have some stuff that I have in my Amazon cart. I spend so much money on this channel, and the channel barely makes anything. It's so funny. I have some stuff in my Amazon cart that I can hit buy on at any time, and it's going to probably be a thing that I'm going to test to see if it works, and if so, I'm going to do a video about it. I think it's going to make people's life a lot easier, especially if they have a spouse that tells them they're not allowed to do anything permanent regarding acoustic panel installations. I think I have a good solution. I need to test it, but testing costs money, and I spent too much recently, and I just need to pay off the credit card again, and then I'll do it. And yes, the credit card is going to be paid off. No worries. But now it looks like I'm going to have to buy Bill. If Bill has modded a few, and he still has some Bill recording mods, Bill Sittler mods, I'm going to have to buy at least one Okatva if he has them. So thanks for the heads up on that, Liberty Dude. But the reason I ask about your acoustic treatment on the inside is because a little bit will help, but a lot of it will help so much more. That's the reason why I did that video, what the beginners need to understand about EQ. because a lot of the time it's the environment you're in. Now, you say mid to high end indoor dialogue microphone. Are you talking about something for a live stream? Are you talking about for recording voiceover? Are you talking about for doing film work and this is your studio? Because you just said a small room. And the purpose matters. So, Straladar, if you can tell me what your purpose is, pretty much, and I'm looking down below, and it doesn't sound to me like you've answered the question, at least as of right now. So let's look. If you can answer that question for me, are you at a desk? Are you at a it says 2-inch sound absorbing sheets on the walls, standing behind a desk, fantasy storytelling on camera for YouTube. Gotcha. Okay, so that's what it is. 2-inch sound absorbing sheet. So that's probably film you're talking about, but it's probably just acoustic insulation that's 2 inches. So it's going to probably not, it's going to be a little bit on the boomy side, isn't it? If it says on the walls, I'm going to assume then that it's on all of your walls. So it might be a little on the boomy side, standing behind a desk. If you're standing behind a desk, hopefully it's going to be a little bit farther away from your chest. You're going to have, it might be at, let's say, just below waist level, or maybe just below crotch level, something like that. So hopefully if that's where the desk is and you don't have a big monitor that's going to be, that's obviously not going to have acoustic foam on it, then perhaps cut and poly filled with, from Audiomute. Oh, okay. So it's probably going to be pretty decent stuff. Good. Then what I would say you probably want to do when you say mid to high end indoor dialogue, what is your budget? Are you going into a recorder? Are you going into your computer to record? That matters as well. What I would say if you are in that kind of an environment, higher pitched male voice. Are you reading off, are you looking down and reading off of your computer monitor or reading off of an iPad or something like that? Are you reading off of paper? Are you tilting your head down? Are you reading off of a display that's at head height so you can actually get higher and have better posture? Or are you looking down? All of these things matter. Okay, you said $500 to $1,200 into the Zune F8N. Okay. Let me think. All right, 2-inch exhorting. So it'd be a little on the and you said, now here's, okay, teleprompter attached to the lens. Okay. How far away is the lens? Are you trying to keep the microphone out of the shot? There's so many questions here. Are you trying to keep the microphone out of the shot, or can you do something like this and not worry about it? Or better yet, are you shooting it at such an angle where are you doing it just like this to the camera, and you're trying to perform and stuff while, playing to your audience, and the microphone is not cutting off the side of your head, so you could very easily mask it out and basically post it out by drawing a little line around it using my invisible boom technique. Or if you're doing it on a green screen, for example, you can easily remove the microphone so it can be closer. Or does it need to be far away and like above, out of frame? Like right now, this height right here would be, if the microphone was right there, it would need to go up about another inch, and then it would be out. But if you're playing to a camera with a fixed lens, it should be able to do that. Earthworks. I don't think so. Not for his circumstance. It could, maybe. Talking about like the one that Curtis Judd uses. But these are some details I really need to know in order to recommend something. It popped up on the screen. Okay. 6 feet approximately, hoping to have the mic just out of frame, attached to a K-Tech boom. Oh, okay. Okay. So if you're going to be doing that, then you probably do want to have a shotgun microphone. If your voice is high-pitched, what kind of sound are you going to want? You said your voice is high-pitched. Are you wanting to play it naturally? Are you going to post it up and you're going to boost things, do certain effects to it? Like if you're doing reading for like, you said dialogue. Storytelling. Are you going to be doing voices? Are you going to be pushing the proximity effect or wanting to give it like a, deep type, sorcerer type sound at some point? And then you're going to be doing a high-pitched girl voice, and you're going to be doing a more manly type fighter voice. I mean, there's all these different thoughts that are going through my mind. And Liberty does make a good suggestion there, NTG3, and then Ken makes the NTG5. And those are a couple of good ideas. The reason I'm asking, what are you trying to do, is because there are certain microphones out there that are going to bring out. Here's the thing. It's always difficult without hearing an environment to determine what it's going to sound like and what it's going to do best with. And so I guess now it's going to be, it's a good enough time for me to mention that I was going to try to prepare a live stream for today that would allow me to vet people and to bring in people and ask questions live. And this would have been a wonderful opportunity. You could have been in your environment and you could be asking me and anybody else that was in the stream at the same time what our thoughts were about your recording environment. And then say, for what would be a good microphone to get, and I could walk you through some stuff. And like one of the things I've done in the past is I've done Zoom calls with people, and I've said, oh, wait a minute, take your microphone a little bit farther away from you. Now angle it back this way. Take it higher. Now bring it lower. Take your boom arm and turn it upside down. Do different things like that and help them dial in on certain positions. And I've done that live with them. And by the end, they're like, holy crap, I helped someone do this a few years ago, and she she was having some issues with her voiceover setup, and I showed her a couple of little tricks and helped her eliminate her issues, and she was already getting voiceover work and is now doing that. I mean, I reached out to her a couple of years ago for the last time just to see how she was doing. She's doing well, but it's very difficult to blindly determine what a good sound is. Now, I would say trust your ears. If you want something that's bringing out a little bit of bass in your voice, it's not there. Like, my voice is actually a higher pitch than what you're hearing right now. The microphone is just this close. If I back off on this is going to sound more like me. It's now tinny because it's far away and I have the gain and everything set. But if I gain it up a little bit, then you're probably going to hear a little bit of play off of my monitor. But this is the way I sound. Hear how my voice is higher pitched? It's the way I normally sound when I'm standing up and doing this stuff. But if I get a little bit closer, I don't need to push the gain nearly as much. It sounds a little bit more pleasant probably to your ears. And so I usually end up having the microphone fairly close, but I'm still not obstructing my view. It depends on what effect you're going for. If you are, and there were some good suggestions, if you're looking for something that is very, very transparent and it just is a natural type sound, then a Rode NTG5 or a D80 S Mic 2 would probably be good for overhead booming in that kind of an environment on a K-Tech boom. And because there's not really a bunch of background noise you'd have to worry about, that's going to sound very natural. And because it's a shotgun microphone that's out of frame, it's going to sound really good being overhead. Now, if you do want to really increase, oh, you did say you want to pick up natural sound and have the ability to add vocal effects in post. Yeah, very good. But if and that would be if you can't afford something like a DPA 4017B. 4017B is extremely natural, very highly detailed, and it's going to sound very rich and it's going to give you everything out of your voice that you need to, and it's going to sound crystal clear, but it's going to be out of that price range. It's going to be over $2,200 or $1,200. I think new they're around $1,800. And if you were to find one used, it might be $16. So it'd be a little bit out of your price range. But if you did want to have a little bit of that extended bass out of your voice, then an MKH 416, which you could probably find used for somewhere around $900, maybe even less. You don't want to get too low because then you're like, oh, well, this is probably one of those cheap ones that pretends that's a fake 416. But then Liberty also made the suggestion of the Rode NTG3. That's another good microphone choice that has an extended bass, and those are usually around $1,000 or around $800. So that's less than $1,000 less than a 416, and those are solid also. So what I would say what I would say is that if you're trying to go for a more natural sound, I would say if you could get a DPA 4017B, you would love it. If you can't, then probably something like a DADS Mic 2 would give you everything you want, or an NTG5. Both of those are fine choices. They're very natural sounding. And I would say that those would probably be a couple of very good suggestions for you. Trying to think of other shotgun microphones that would be in that price range. But I would probably say those would probably suit you really well. Yeah. Because if you're just barely above your head, you could very easily add those effects in post, and it would allow you to perform. What I would say, though, is don't go square over your head. You don't want to do something like that. What you'd want to do is angle it probably at least a 30 or 45 degree angle, get it more out in front of you, and still get it barely out of frame, like, there, right there. If you get it barely out of frame, it's gonna sound really good. This is when I wish that I would actually have a microphone here and I could show you. I mean, I do. They're over there. I just would have to leave the stream for 40 seconds, get things out, get a cable, connect it on up, and then don't even know if it would handle that. But yes, an S-Mic 2 can handle humidity. Okay, so let me back up here a bit, since I think I finally answered your question there with a few suggestions here. Let's see. Good evening, brother. Hope you are well. Soundspeeds family. Thank you so much. Okay, how's OBS working? The Streamlabs. I am your in-flight entertainment on your drive home. So, Eldest, if you're still here, I had some hiccups at the beginning because I did not know how to actually find the right event to start the stream when it started. And my bit rate was messed up. It was very, I was buffering all over the place. And I did not know I could just shut down Streamlabs, still be streaming, and then start it back up. And I was not able to change my bitrate on the fly, so I had to end the stream. And then little did I know that when I started the stream back up, it wasn't going to go back to the same stream. It was like, no, you want to do a different stream? You have another idea for a stream you want to do? And I'm like, no, I wanted the same one as before. So I then was trying to get back people that was in the other live stream, probably sitting there saying, this guy's never coming back. I'm, disconnecting. He advertised this live stream for 2 days and now he's not even here. Technical issues. What kind of a person are you? Anyway, so there's been a bit of a learning curve here. We did have that $5. Oh, I was just about to say, you would see the microphone that you helped me to create, the little, the chat box thing. What's it called? Alert box that popped up when there's a donation. Thank you very much, Liberty Dude. That kind of thing pops up there on the screen. You'll see the microphone that I melted in the acid. You're going to see that melt. You're going to hear a little short sound speeds thing. Hopefully you heard that. And you're going to see that pop up. Well, Eldest helped me set this up. So, Eldest, you didn't give me all the information. I didn't know how to start the stream, so I was a little bit on the late side. I didn't have the proper stream settings for my internet connection, so it was a little bit goofed up. I say I'm blaming you. I'm not really. I really appreciate your setup. This is going to be, ultimately, in the end, it's going to be a really nice thing for me. And it also, I do have one more question that I'm going to be answering here in a second. Let me play catch up on this chat. Let's see here. I'm late. What mic are you currently using? Is that a black TLM 103? No, it's not. It's a T.bone SC400. It's only like a 40-pound microphone. I have a review on that. If you look it up, the T.bone SC400. I know you asked this question like 13 minutes ago. Sorry that we're playing catch up here. 2-inch sound absorbent sheets. Okay, I already talked about that one. There you go. Ping pong, best live stream to listen to while driving. Unless, of course, it's a long drive, in which case I'll put you to sleep and you'll crash and die. And I don't want that to happen. My sound mixer doesn't watch any of my videos because he says, I'll only watch it if I want to go to sleep. I'm like, yeah, thanks for that. There you go. Thank you very much, Liberty Dude. Yet another little, he likes to have the music. Hopefully you heard the music and it's actually going through live, but you get a chance to see the microphone melt away on the screen. So thank you very much, Liberty. Okay, this is going to be fun. What I'm not going to do is turn on text to speech. Unless there's a Streamlabs option that only like members can do a text to speech or something. Because the last thing in the world I need to have happen is someone deciding to troll me like they troll other people, and all of a sudden sexist, racist, whatever comments come up. I don't go with any of that stuff. I disagree with all of it. So I would hate to have that happen, and I would pull donations from the stream altogether. And I don't want to do that. So no text to speech. I already have this thing set up, hopefully, to not allow profanity and that kind of thing. So hopefully that's going to remain the way it is. I don't want to turn on text to speech, so that'd be scary. Okay. Let's see here. What mic are you using right now? That's the T.bone SC400. Okay. Does the 4017B do okay in a slightly more humid environment? Or willing to save up a bit to have a mic with a low self-noise and natural sound? Oh, yes. 4017B, I've used it outside in the rain. Granted, it was in a Zeppelin, but that kind of humidity, it does great with. It is an RF bias microphone, which is going to do better. What was that sound? So it's a sorry about that. Let's see, where was it? It does have a very low self noise. It does have a very natural sound. It's very detailed. And yes, it's an RF bias microphone, so it's going to do fine in humidity. It was inside of a Zeppelin for me, and I had no short outs or anything like that. So it was great as far as I'm concerned. And if you are going to buy one, I would say if you have the option to rent one. Thank you very much, Alan. I really appreciate that. But yeah, that would be a microphone that you might see if you can do a rental from a company. Like if you're near a Gotham Sound, a True audio department, something like that, Pro Sound, then I would say if you can rent one, ask them if you could rent the microphone, and then if you like it, apply that towards the purchase. Because some places will do that. You'll rent a microphone, you'll say, rent it for $50 for the day, or whatever they're going to rent it for you. And you say, oh dude, I love this microphone, I want this one. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, well, let me do that. I want to buy it, but can I return this one and get one brand new, or can I buy this one B stock? Whatever. What do you want to do? But that would be something that if you're interested in a 4017B, I would definitely, I would love it. I mean, personally, I would say you will be very happy with a 4017B. It's a great microphone. DDS Mic 2 can handle humidity, yes. Okay, awesome. Oh, yes, and there's an AT4053B. There's also another one. What's it, an 8000, something like that? I think Asden makes one also. Curtis Judd likes, if you watch his, best microphones for film use or something like that, he likes it. I've never used it, but it sounded good in his video. You could look up something like that, like best microphones for film work. Curtis Judd has a video about that. A lot of the microphones I use are a lot higher end than what you normally run into on content creators. So, I mean, I could talk to you about a Schoeps CMIT 5U or even a 2U Super CMIT. I could talk to you about, obviously the 4017B, the 416. I could talk to you about the MKH 8060, the 8070, the 60, the 70, the Sanken CS3E, the CSR2, all these different microphones. I could talk to you about those, but they're going to be a lot higher price. Now, that brings me to another point. Oh, but you want a more natural sound, don't you? The Sanken makes some good ones. I personally don't like the CSM1. I personally don't like that one. But if you could get a CSR2, you don't even need the R2. You could just get the CS2. That may be, it's going to give you a little bit more low end, but it sounds really good. That microphone sounds really good. It's an amazing microphone. I love the CSR. The CS3E. If I could get one of those things, I would love to have it. I might, you know what? I might just have to buy one if I find it on sale. If I see somebody selling a CS3E, I'll probably jump on it, because that is one of the microphones I love the sound of. It's got, there goes Liberty again. Awesome. Thank you very much, Liberty. He's going to keep on popping that up, won't he? But I tell you, I love the CS3E. It is a microphone. If you want to watch Michael Wynn's video, I think he did the CS3E against the CSM1. And I tell you, A lot of people like the sound of the CSM1. I personally don't. To me, it's way too shrill. It has too much high pitch. It does do a great job with rejection. It is extremely small, but to me, there's no low end. That's just my, I don't want to just have presence boosted things. If I was going to be doing an infomercial, I would probably love it and pick that microphone because it's going to pull out all the hype. That's just me personally. You could have a totally different thought and experience on this, but there you go. Hey, Alan, if I want the best of both worlds, filming and editing 35 millimeter on a flatbed table editor, whoa, but want the digital audio, how do I sync it in post? Telesync, or is there digital audio flatbeds? Wow. I am not a post guy, nor have I ever done analog post. So I can't answer that question at all. I do know people that could, though. If you shoot me an email and ask me that question, put it in the words, I will shoot it off to somebody that knows. I know people. I could easily send that off to somebody that would be able to answer that, though. But analog, 35 millimeter on a flatbed editor table. Want digital audio? How do I sync it in post? I mean, the way we always did it in film, and I could be off on this, the way they always did it if it was analog film was that you would hold up the slate and they would clap it. And you would clap sync that to wherever the clap was heard on the audio. And that's what I would assume, that if you're involved in 35 millimeter, unless you timecode stripe it. If you timecode stripe it, you're going to have to build an association in, so that way the timecode will match. You're going to have to match the timecode between the audio and the because you're basically digitizing 35 millimeter, and at that point it would have to have timecode that matches the sound. So you're going to have to find a match point on like your first track. And, you know, every time you cut with film, here's the thing. Every time you cut with film, they would easily be able to splice that, right? They would be able to take that, and then you would have to manually sync it to the clap. But in the world of digital, you don't have that, because someone then will hold the slate upside down. They'll say, oh, we cut the camera too early, do a tail ID. They hold up the slate and they do that, but it's a separate, you record time code on it. So it's digital metadata that's recorded with the video. But post won't even use that because it serves no purpose anymore. It's all going to be, that take number and everything like that is going to be with the time code. Script supervisor is going to keep all that separate or all that together. So they're going to be able to see all that in their data. So tail IDs, personally, I mean, and if there's a post guy listening to this or wants to respond and say, Alan, you're off on that. But I've talked to a couple of guys that say, yeah, why would we use that? It's not a clip of a tail ID that lasts 4 seconds of them clapping the sticks. What does that do? You know, because it's not necessarily going to be printed. It depends. But anyway, if you want to email me that question, I will send that off to someone that does know. And let's see, then Liberty for Alan to leave the stream and grab a mic. You really want me to do that? For Liberty, I'll do it. Okay, here I go. I'm going to be back in a moment here. I hate having to do this live on the thing, but I'll be as quick as I can. Okay, here we go. All right, here I am. So, I'm sure you saw this, but as I started to walk away, I have so much stuff right here by the desk. I actually ended up tripping over that stuff. So, all right, here we go. For Liberty, I'll do it. Okay. We're going to be using the SMIC 2 because it's the quickest microphone I could get to. I got my cable. Could have just used the cable off of that, but it would require taking out the stream for a second. All right, let me All right, you're suddenly going to lose all of my... Oh, let me take that gain down. It's way hot. All right, so that's probably a decent level. And hopefully you're still hearing that. Might be a little bit on the hot side. All right, so this is the S Mic 2. If I have this right over here, so sorry, you're going to see the cable. You're going to hear this all over the place. This is very much in the frame. And this is the S Mic 2. If I'm sitting here at a table like I am right now and I'm directly overhead, now I'm getting a lot of play off of the table here. You can hear that, right? You can hear how this, even though it's barely, it's in the frame, I could take it out of the frame, but I'm not going to do that. I want you to see what it's like. It's directly overhead. It's picking up my voice from only this far away. It's going to be great, right? But you got to keep in mind that it's not, because this is a shotgun microphone, it's picking up off of the table and right back up. So it's picking up my voice twice, and because my chest is at the table here, it's being reinforced. Now watch what happens if I bring this more in front of me now. If I bring this more in front of me, it's going to be getting all of that sound from my mouth a little bit, and it's only about a 30-degree angle at this point. And now if I go out of the frame, it still sounds very natural now, doesn't it? Now, if I go a little bit more downwards, now I can actually go more downwards as I go closer to the lens because I'm also cueing it back more towards my mouth. And I'm getting off of this table. This is one of the videos I need to shoot at some point. And I'm leaving this intentionally in the frame so that way you can see it. But you can hear the mouth more. You can hear how this sounds better. The cable's now out of the shot, by the way. Not here, but it is there. But hear the difference right now. If I'm directly overhead, playing to the camera, this is the way it would sound. But because there's a desk right here, there's an issue. As soon as I start to go out more in front of me and cue back and get off of this table, if I still continue to cue downwards, it's going to sound thin. But if I cue it back towards my mouth, you hear that fidelity now popping up? That's the way it's going to sound. Now, if I drop it even more, and now coming back at my face more, obviously it's going to sound totally different if you get lower than your forehead, because now it's at mouth height. So if you're looking down, doing your voiceover and reading stuff here, something like this, the plane of your face changes things. Just like if you start to side address, the microphone is going to start to pick up differently as it starts to get around on the side of my face. Like right now, it's in the front of my face. And the microphone is not hearing past my face anymore. My voice is right here. It picks that up, and it's not hearing on the other side of that. But if I start to come around the side, the microphone is now picking up my voice from the side, and it's listening past my voice. So it's still pointed directly at my mouth, but now the pattern is going to be picking up more from the side. So now it starts to sound a little on the thin side, doesn't it? It's still coming in just fine, but it's too much of an angle at that point. If you can get your mouth from only a little bit off axis, like right now, if I were to say, pickled porcupines prefer pink pickles. Pesky porcupines prefer pink pickles. Now I'm plosives. Big boys bow before Beavis. You heard a little bit of wind on that too. But if I go slightly off axis, this is where my video was, finding your perfect voiceover mouth position. That's one of the reasons I like to have a microphone a little bit higher. Because if I come down just a little bit on me, pesky porcupines prefer pink pickles. Pesky. It's not hitting that diaphragm. That's nailing the diaphragm. Pesky porcupines prefer pink pickles. Big boys bow before Beavis. Not going to happen. It's dialed right in on my voice, and it's nice and close. Now, if I go slightly out of the frame a little bit, you're going to hear that it's going to get a little bit on the thin side, but that's actually an optical illusion because I'm not adjusting my gain. Now, if I adjust my gain to compensate for it being up there, I sound more natural now. So if I want to come down a little bit and scoot back more towards my face, let me go more there. It's now pointed right at my eyes. You don't have to point straight at your mouth. Right now, I'm angled straight at my mouth, but if I go up a little bit higher, I'm now angling directly at my eyes. Keep in mind, a shotgun microphone is actually, I'm going to switch back over to this one here. But a shotgun microphone, what it is doing is you see the pattern online, and it looks like ovals and like a big wide oval with a couple little side ovals or maybe a rear lobe or something like that, depending on the pattern. A long shotgun microphone will have a little bit of other lobe, but an analogy that also really works well is if you imagine a cone that comes out from the end. That is your detail. Like, yes, it does have a lobe, a front lobe that comes out like that, but there's also a certain amount of detail that is going to be picked up in a cone shape out the front of the microphone in a Y. So there's your detail out there. If you take that microphone and You point that microphone straight down, the detail is coming it's hearing past your voice, hitting the table, bouncing off and coming back up. However, if you were to take this microphone, lower it more and get it more in front of you, then at that point, what it's doing is that cone is still getting all the detail from your voice because you're in an acoustically treated environment. You're not going to be worrying about hearing all the other background noise and that kind of thing all around you. But you are going to be getting the benefit out of hearing all that detail. And if you dip your head down at all, it's still on axis. I'll demonstrate that. Okay. So here I am again with this SMIC 2 right here. You can hear that one live. If I were to have it more in front of me and I tilt my head down, you hear how it goes a little bit off axis, right? That's one of the reasons why people will usually have it more like this if it's being used for voiceover. I'm going to back it off a little bit more and gain it up a little bit. So that way you're hearing it play. The null part of the pattern is playing to my screen right now. And you're probably hearing my air conditioner because, that's one of the reasons why I use the DBX286S. But right now, if I were to tilt my head down and back up because I'm looking at the let's just say that I'm trying to read something off of my phone and I'm reading downwards and then I'll go back upwards a little bit, you're hearing that change a little bit, but part of that is coming from me crushing my vocal cords. If I do this number and I bring this down, I'm extracting my jaw from moving. When I do that, I'm actually crushing the vocal cords a little bit and changing the way that I'm making them vibrate and sound. I'm changing the way that my mouth is able to shape words. It's not natural anymore. It's going to be more restricted. So if you could imagine that I'm trying to pull out the sound of someone's voice, you want them to sound more natural. You want the posture to be upright for proper breathing. You want it to also be so that way they can formulate the words properly and without crushing the vocal cords or anything like that. But still, someone might be doing your voiceover and looking down a little bit, and this allows you a little bit of play. That way you could also say, if you're doing your fantasy thing where instead of being over here and then all of a sudden you say, and then the warlock did this, now I'm off axis. You hear the difference in the tone right now? If I bend my face downwards, even if I bring it more out in front of me, it's still going to be off axis. If I come up here like this, you're able to hear my voice more in front of me. But as soon as I do this, I'm directing my voice downwards. That does matter. If I cue it back a little bit, now I say, the dragon now wandered in towards the night. You can hear it sounds more on axis. The detail's going to fall off a little bit, but not nearly as much because it's still catching my voice in the patterns right here. And the edge of that detail cone is coming down here. So I am going to be crushing my vocal cords just a little bit, and that's going to be shaping my sound mostly. But you normally will be able to dial in on what it's going to be and how it's going to be with your shotgun microphone if you do some testing. So there we go, and I am now out of SMIC 2 land. So hopefully that answered some of your questions regarding it. You can thank Liberty for that one because like I said, I wouldn't normally want to grab a microphone and leave the stream, but I did. So I know film sets have walkie etiquette. Do boom operators have comm etiquette? Any tips for booming on comms and communicating with a mixer? Yeah, we do have etiquette, honesty. That's the big thing. Sound mixer, you don't have to be diplomatic to. They hired you for a reason. Now, if you call in a sound utility, what I would say is don't be a jerk towards them. Utilities already have enough stuff going on with wiring and stuff. Call them in as early as you possibly can. If you watch the rehearsal and you anticipate that once you get out of the wide shot, you're going to end up needing to put foam on people's feet for the wide shot, but you're going to want carpets down for the tight shot, then let the utility know that in advance. Say, hey, if we could go ahead and get some carpets standing by with a couple of rolls of tape on that, if you don't want to put it just behind this wall here, then as soon as we get an opportunity, we're going to punch in. I'll help you drop those, but we'll get take 3, now take 4. Now we're going to punch in. Well, you would have already talked to the first AD at this point and said, I plan on dropping some carpets in as soon as we do this particular setup or whatever. And we start punching in, they'll say, absolutely. As long as you tell a first AD in advance and they plan on it, that way it's not going to catch them by surprise and they're going to be looking at their what. I don't have time for this. They're swinging a lens and that's it. But if you tell them in advance, they're going to say, okay, how long are you going to need when you do that? A minute? Okay, great. And they're going to say, okay, let's go ahead and we're swinging a lens, sound, go ahead and drop in your carpets, and they'll at least announce it. They're planning on it at that point. You may need to refresh your memory depending on the first AD, but that's going to help you tremendously. But what I always do on the comms is I'm usually, I would usually address shop. And if it's an intense sequence or we have to focus on what we're doing, I won't joke a whole lot. If it's lax, if it's just being, if it's same old, I may joke around a bit. They don't want you joking too much over your comms on set, because if you do that, it sounds like a chit chat, and they're going to say, "Can you please take conversation off set?" So that's if I'm going to be chatting too much with my team, I will always step off set or at least a little bit farther away, and that way, sometimes I'll also cover up the microphone. If I have a headset that comes off of something like the 7506 is around, I'll do this number and I'll talk into I'll bring it down and bring the microphone really close, and I'll just talk into it like that. But as a rule, what you want to do is not try to have your conversation stay in your department. People don't want to hear a sound conversation. They don't mind hearing a grip or electric or camera or something like that. They won't mind hearing the other conversations because it's all related to picture. Most of the time, though, if a sound person starts to talk, you can distract. There's some operators I know that get very frustrated if they hear a sound person talking at all. So I would say be honest with your team. Anticipate what you're going to want and when you're going to want it. If you think that you're going to want a second boom as soon as you, for a wide shot, as soon as you see the rehearsal, go talk to your utility. Tell them you might want to get a second boom ready because I'm going to be using you in this wide shot. When we punch in for coverage, I'll probably use you there too, but maybe in a different capacity. So you might want to bring check your wireless boom, make sure everything is working. Get ready. And they'll say, okay, great. And then they'll go ahead and anticipate that, and then they'll run in, and that way you're not thinking of them, and suddenly they say, okay, picture's up. Real quick, utility, get in here. You're going to boom this actor. They're going to be like, okay, quick, and they're running to set, and they're going to be stressed about that. Try to anticipate. Also, your sound mixer's like, whoa. All right, hold on a second. Who are they booming? Who are you booming? What's going on here? There's coordination. So try to anticipate the needs of your department and what you're going to want in advance. That's one of the things I cannot stress enough. Anticipate. Sound utilities are effective if they can anticipate. Boom operators are also effective because your sound mixer and your sound utility are going to know what you're going to want them to do and when. Timing. You're a filmmaker. You know how this stuff works. Coordinated as such. Don't ask for things last minute unless it's an absolute emergency. Try to anticipate someone walking around is going to, you're going to hear their footsteps. What are their shoes going to sound like? Might want to give a heads up to your utility when they go to wire talent if that person always wears high heels, something like that. So hopefully that helps a little bit. But the main etiquette over your comms is to be honest and to try to anticipate as much as possible. And don't chit chat as much during times that are stressful. Don't distract. And, which I've also broken that rule, but you don't want to. Do as I say, don't do as I do, like I tell my kids. But yeah, for the most part, try to eliminate the chit chat off of the comms unless there's like nothing going on. Okay, thanks so much for the suggestions. Getting late here and I have to log off. Best wishes. Okay, and then Liberty says, okay, this is going to be fun. Best mic for high-pitched extreme metal voices? Metal voices. Are you singing metal? Hint of shrimp? I don't know if you're talking about singing music. This is why I wish Nick was in this stream. He knows much more about the music aspect of microphones. It is not my specialty. You might even ask Bandrew if Bandrew were actually here, or go into Bandrew's Discord and ask in his tech channel. Music is not my specialty, and I don't really honestly know what voice would work well for a metal performance. Love your channel and appreciate your passion for sound. You and other channels like Boot Junkie have been great for setting up my home studio. Awesome, Alan. Thank you very much, and thank you for the super chat. That was this one. I'm going to hit recycle. There it is. Thank you very much for that. Okay, Liberty, I've recently become very interested in the Austrian Audio OD505. Oh. It is not a film microphone. I know nothing about it. Sorry, Liberty. I can look it up though. I can look it up and try to research it and ask Andrew his thoughts. Usually if there's a microphone I'm not familiar with that's consumer audio based or podcast microphone or something like that, I'll usually say, hey, Andrew, what do you know about this one? What can you tell me? And he has very good ears. He's developed very good ears over time. So over all of his reviews and stuff, and he's very picky. And I will usually ask his thoughts because I know that's probably going to go exactly in line with my thoughts. AKG Blue Line with CK93 hypercardioid capsule. Okay, if that's a suggestion, I would say, cool. AKG Blue Line. I don't know that microphone. Sounds cool, though. Alan, tell everyone to make sure that they take a peek at the moon tonight. All right, well, everybody, peek at the moon tonight. I guess that means it's going to be... is that full? I can't really read my my clock over there. Looks like it's going to be pretty full. Alexa, what is the phase of the moon tonight? A waxing gibbous moon. I guess that means it's a pretty moon or something like that. Okay, Alan, I'm doing audiobooks and I'm currently using an AT2035 condenser. I completed one audiobook and it turned out pretty well. What would you feel would be a next upgrade I should make? From an AT2035, I would say the NT1 would be a great step up for you. You want an MKH416 ultimately? Save up for that. AT2035 is going to do you fine. I would say 2035 should be fine for you. I mean, it's going to do the job and do it well. And I'm sure that if you just did an audiobook, you're going to know how the microphone works just fine for you. Unless there was something specifically you did not like about the sound, I would say that stay with that one while you save up for the 416. Don't necessarily need to buy another microphone to upgrade. If you wanted to buy one, I would say the NT1 is a wonderful mic. It's one of my favorite microphones for voiceover. I love that microphone. That's why I put my daughter on it in the last stream, because it's a very natural sounding microphone. If you put it on a stand or something like that and you're not just constantly hitting it, it's not going to make a lot of noise. It's going to be really awesome. I regret not buying an MKH 416 when they were on sale for $7.99. Yeah. If you ever see a sale like that again on a 416, let me know. I may end up picking one up. I don't know. It depends. I right now, my biggest thought is I'm going to have to keep Bill's thing up there so that way I can constantly look at it. He says best price guarantee on Okatva products. If he retired, I am going to be so disappointed. I've had this desire to want to buy one of his modded mics because I remember the way they sounded early in my career when I was working with Aaron Siegel. He was the mixer. I'm working with him now. Worked with him just yesterday on a Jerry Bruckheimer movie. It was awesome. When they were on sale, okay, so how do you go about recording audio in the rain? What kind of rain gear do you use? Oh, this is a fun question. I love it. And what compromises do you have to make thanks to the great content? Daniel, thank you so much for asking that. Rain is troublesome. It can be very troublesome because first of all, rain comes down. What is going to happen around set? Everyone's going to be putting up tents. They're going to be putting up umbrellas. They're going to be wearing raincoats. All this kind of stuff sounds like a bunch of plastic bags in the rain. So you're probably going to want to step up your game and get a little bit more directional microphone. With regards to your microphones and the rain protection, though, some people say just throw it inside of a Zeppelin, maybe put the fur on. I have some issues with doing that. Because what's going to happen is the fur is going to soak and then it's going to acoustically change. Plus, as it soaks, you're going to have weight trapped on top of your microphone and it's going to just filter the water straight on through. Now, what I will usually do is and there's various different solutions. I think Rycote made the duck, which is like two little round pieces of cut off foam that comes around on either side. And it had a little elastic strap type thing that went across it in a couple places. It would keep the rain off of it. I know Remote Audio has the Rain Man. They always have really cool names for their products. The Rain Man is their product that it's like a single. It's Velcro on the bottom, but you would put it over your microphone, and it's got like cotton around it. So when it soaks, it gets heavy. It also, one of the things that you got to be aware of is that rain protection will usually, if it's some sort of an aftermarket third-party thing, it's going to cut off the rear lobe and the side lobes of the microphone. So you're only going to get it out the front. Now, what I always go by and swear by is the Sonella Pia Kelly. That to me is the cream of the crop. There is nothing better. First of all, their piano and the pianissimo are completely beautiful, brilliant sounding, very, very wonderful feeling, provided you set them up properly, Zeppelins. The Pia Kelly is a piece of foam that goes on the outside of it. And once you put it on the outside of it, it is made for that particular Zeppelin. And when you put that on the outside of it, it's going to be form fit to it. It's not going to cut off the rear lobe. It's still going to sound natural. Now, there's another aspect that you want to keep in mind also, is how do you get the rain to not go through? Well, there is rain and water repellent spray. You want to use that. Water repellent spray on the outside of the Pia Kelly. When it's dry, go into your tent, spray it all around, make sure it's nice and dry. Then you can even do another coating or something like that. Do that. That's going to be great for you. Then obviously any connectors that you have that's sticking out of the microphone, you want to wrap in silicone rescue tape. And then once that is completely, sound protected against rain, then you're going to be in a good shape. If you're going to a transmitter, I have a video about how to rain protect your sound, where I took a transmitter on a microphone itself. I ran the cable into the microphone that I was speaking on, and then I showed how you wrap it up with rescue tape if you're doing it sparingly. If you want to just put like a bag or something like that around that, and then just wrap the whole thing in rescue tape, it's going to hold much better. And then you can just cut it right off because you have a bag against your transmitter. The big thing you want to keep in mind is keeping rain off your electronics and out of your connectors. Otherwise, it's going to start to sound like it's going to start to short out. It's going to make all these sounds you don't like, and it's going to affect your sound. You don't want to do that. I have that video on and then what I did is once I put just the minimal amount of rescue tape after the press and seal, which I love, the rescue seal is what I would actually put around a transmitter or a connector, and then wrap it where you need to with rescue tape. Then I took the transmitter and I dunked it right into a thing of water, and I said, if you're not hearing me, it's because my transmitter is no longer able to record, and I've totally just screwed up my audio for this video, but it worked fine. And that was me submerging it in water. So what I would say is, if you can, then make sure you reinforce the connector. Use your if you can, save up and get a Pia Kelly for a pianissimo or a piano, which is the name of the Sonella wind protection, which is in my video where I talk about microphone wind protection. And I talk about, you do a search for microphone wind protection sound speeds, and it will show up. And and the Sonella was unmatched. It blew away everything else in the competition. And then if you get the Pia Kelly for it, which is made for it, and then you spray it around with the water repellent spray, a good quality water repellent spray, and you silicone rescue tape and press and seal your connectors, you're not going to have any issues at all in the rain. It's going to be a lovely, lovely thing, provided that you're not getting too much of the sound of all the different the tints and the rain protection, all that stuff. You're going to hear that. It's going to sound like plastic garbage. So you may have to play the pattern of your microphone a little bit more away from the rain. And then, of course, also if your microphone is dripping, you want to keep that drip from going right down the actor's face, because the very first time I ever was booming an actor in the rain, I noticed that it was like I kept seeing the rain was in general, but it was making these thick, beads of water that were dropping down. It was hitting the actor right on the end of their nose. I'm like, let's not do that. So that was years ago, and it was funny. Now you can take furnace filters, the hog's hair, and cover that over any downspouts or anything like that, and treat your audio, anything that there's water pulling up, that kind of thing. It would be a benefit to having hog's hair over that. And of course, hog's hair back in the day is what you used to wrap a microphone in before there were all these wonderful modern solutions for it. So rain protection, hopefully that gives you an idea. My personal preference is the pianissimo and the piano by Sonella with the Pia Kelly that goes with, and the water resistant spray. Love that stuff. Alan, with the microphones you have, what went into your decision to use the one you have now? Great question, Liberty. The reason why I use this is because, first of all, it's a super cardioid pattern microphone, so I can get off of it a little bit. When I tried using a cardioid, it doesn't have as much rejection off of the sides. So I was getting a lot of reflections off of my monitor. My monitor right here, what size is this thing? What is it? I look at it, it looks like a 14 to me, but I guess it's a 24. I think this is a 24-inch monitor. But that is a solid piece of sound reflective material right there in front of me. I don't want to end up having my voice reverb off of it, or that would technically be an echo. If I do, then it's going to not sound right. And when I used the King B, the Worker B, the NT1, used any of the shotgun microphones I have, when I used any of the microphones I have, the 30, 35, any of them, it was always, I was not able to find an angle I really liked where I was able to play it off of the monitor there and still have it pick up my voice well. But this one right here had two things I really liked about it. Number one is I do have a pattern that the rear lobe of this is rejecting off of that computer monitor, and it's doing so quite well. The other thing is it's a super cardioid patterned microphone, so I can be farther away from it. It's going to pick up my voice a little bit better. If I back off a little bit, and if I want to compensate by bringing up the gain a little bit, I can. Now, it does start to sound a little bit thin because at this point I'm gaining it up enough and my voice is bouncing off of that, coming back in, and the timing is off. But if I come up close again and adjust my voice accordingly, this is kind of how I've dialed it in. If I was going to be back more, I would have to change the microphone up a little bit. But to me, it has nothing to do with the price. To me, it's only a 40-pound microphone. It was like less than $100, including shipping, if you want to get it sent to the United States. It's a super cardioid pattern microphone, and it's very small. Very small, very light. I mean, the shock mount works, but it's by no means on the best arm. I even have a video about using this arm, but I don't want to get an actual boom arm because then the thing folds back up and I don't have the room here. I don't want to put it on this side because I use it for whenever I'm at my computer. I have my mirrorless camera that's right over there. I don't want to put it over there because there's no room to pull the arm back if I'm standing up there and doing a presentation video. And I don't want to have this thing in my face or the arm going across my screen. If I had the low profile arm, it would be jammed up at my hand because I don't have enough room for it. So having a little arm like this would be great. Now, if I clipped it on over here, up on the background here, I guess I could do that. But then I'm going to have to take it down and find a place for it whenever I do a presentation video standing up, which is why I'm using the short arm, and then I just bend it towards the monitor there if I need it out of my way. There you go. So if I'm ever in a voice chat, I'll back it off. If I'm not, I'll bring it back over here, and it goes right where I want it to. It's the height I want it to. I've dialed it in over the course of time I've been using it. Only thing is, occasionally the little clamp down there, it will, over time, it will bend itself up, and then I just need to press it down and then bend it back down a little bit. That's it. But it's only like once every few months that happens. No big deal. Okay. 416 was on sale many times at the end of 2018 through 2019. Honestly, man, I had approximately $150 years ago and picked up an AT2035 due to the positive reviews. I kept seeing it. Now that I'm getting into audiobooks, I think I can move up. There you go. $150 budget. Yeah. Neat. I hope, hopefully I will release the King B2 soon. We have high hopes for a home run. I really hope so too. I know they have reached out. Neat has reached out to a few other content creators and been interested in reviews from them. I'm getting to the point where first of all, I don't need more gear. I don't need it. So I don't want to buy it. And I don't want to accept gear in exchange for a review because I take way too long on a review. I spent probably 6 hours, 2 days in a row last week, because I was working mainly this week, trying to get the script done for my next review. It just won't happen. I just cannot seem to get the thing done. So it'll eventually happen, and it'll probably happen the next couple of weeks, and then it will take me, I'll spend a few hours recording it and getting my words right, and then the voiceover, and then I'll cut together the voiceover, and then I'll stream together the presentation video with the voiceover, and then I will plug in all of my B-roll footage, and it will be the way it is. But I really wish there was a way for me to do a review quicker. But I don't do them very quickly. I know, and it's irritating that some people will say, hey, look at this microphone that Deity just sent me. Thank you, by the way. It sounds good. You hear that? It sounds great. And it comes with this and this and this. So there's my review. It's a great microphone. Okay, well, thanks for watching. And use my affiliate links down below. I'm like, what a waste of 10 minutes of my time. That to me is really irritating. So what I'll do is I'll use it over the course of a few days, and then I will take a break from it and I'll come back to it and do another evaluation of it a few more days later in order to verify my results and to see if I find anything new, if I've experienced anything new, if I need to do a rugged test or something like that, I will do that. That review of the BPTRX for Deity, that took a lot out of me. That was over 100 hours. And then when I did the video the following week, which was testing the time code, that took another 20 hours. A lot of it was because of the duration of the testing, and I'd have to come back up here and log something and check it and check the footage, and then that would take about 10 minutes every hour or so, and then putting together and preparing all the little clips for the time code that was people on Twitter sending me that they wanted me to do the timestamps of those times, and that took time. And the way I do reviews, I'm not full time in this. Don't forget, I do this. I did a couple of movies this week. A TV show on Tuesday, and I did a movie on Wednesday, and the rest was COVID testing. I did COVID testing on Monday. I did COVID testing for 2 shows on Wednesday, and I did COVID testing today for another show that I'm going to be on next week, Monday through, for a few days next week. So it's like, to me, it's like, and that's driving all over the place. So it's, it does take time. Plus, whenever I'm off work, I try to go and visit my grandmother who's in her mid-90s. And she always needs some help. And it's great to see her. It's great to hear her stories, share moments, because one thing that you can't ever get back with loved ones and people you really love and respect is time. And there's a lot of people in my life that were older that I wish I would have spent time with. And for whatever reason, I prioritized other things at the time. Younger, you could say I was just a young idiot and stuff like that. And yeah, that's exactly true. But with regards to especially grandparents and stuff like that, you only have them for a limited number of years. And they were really beneficial. My grandmother, the one grandmother I have that's still alive, she means a lot to me. And so if I'm off, I will usually try to go see her at least once a week. I saw her earlier this week. I went out to visit her on Monday, I think it was. And I, and I went out to visit her, and she was very much into cameras when she was younger, and amateur photographer. And I would always, so what I brought over is my mirrorless camera, and I showed her some features that blew her mind, like the ability to post rack focus and change focus. And then I also, I took the DJI Pocket 2 that you've seen me use in my videos. And I showed her how the 3 gimbal action, and she's like shaking her head saying, that's amazing. And it is. It's amazing technology. And I was able to have some fun with her and show her that and just say, it's amazing. This is only $300. It's amazing. This is only $450 for this setup. And then I'll usually go over and I'll fix something on her computer that she's made notes about. That was the way it was today when I stopped by there with my mom. I also haven't seen my mom in a while, so I went and hung out with her and helped her with her. She ended up having some surgery recently, so I helped her go and lift and things. She's not supposed to drive, so did the good son thing. So I did that, but that gets me out of the house also, so my wife has some time to spread out and do what she wants and needs to do. So there you go. It gets me out of the house, but I'm not always out of the house if I'm not working. Sometimes I will be here. That's why I was able to work 6 hours at a time, slipped in a little bit, and then was able to write for about 6 hours doing the stuff for my next review. Anyway, so there you have it. But I know I'm going to go back to this, but Neat is aware that I'm interested in the King Bee 2. But boy, do I not want to do another review in exchange for a video. I don't want to do it. I know the audience would be interested. I'm going to see if I can start to streamline some of these where like one of the reasons I did the BPTRX video the way I did it is because I don't like doing unboxings. They waste time. And you're like going to open it up and look at this and look at all the different angles. And it came with this little, this is a silicone, piece of silicone. And then this here is the adapter. This is the 3/8/16 to 5/8/27 adapter. Ooh, look at this. And you know what this stuff is. Stop spending 5 minutes on wasting my time on this. Just want to get to the content. And I don't want to do the same test everybody else does. I don't want to do it, but there's a certain satisfaction that comes out of producing a video that, like, I love my worker bee and king bee video that I did before. And there's a lot of videos I do that just takes a lot of time to do in the right way. So I'm never going to be able to get them out there, and people will find them eventually and they'll say, oh, look at this. This is a cool video. And then I look at it and I'm like, oh, goody. I have 1,000 views in the first, 14 months of the video. And then I look at someone else who basically just threw together a video as soon as it arrived to them. And they're going to have a lot of views by the time, it comes out. You'll have people like Curtis Judd and stuff that do very high quality videos with a lot of tests in it too. They just get to them quicker than I do. So anyway, but I don't know if Neat's going to reach out to me and want me to do the King Bee 2 review. If I do, what I'll probably do is some B-roll of it, and I'll talk about differences in the design, and then I'm going to say, but I'm sure you're interested in the way it sounds, and then I'll do comparisons against it and the King Bee. And I'll probably then call it there. I'm going to say the same kind of thing. You're going to see a lot of the way it looks in other videos. I'm going to just show you a couple of my findings and my thoughts on how it balances and stuff like that after using it for a few days. And then I'll call it there, because the one thing I really don't like doing is the same thing as everybody else. That's why I do microphones at different heights overhead. I'll do it in different environments and that kind of thing. So anyway, if you can find it used, good shape, Shure KSM 27 is an excellent microphone. Very good advice there, Liberty. I like my use in NT2A. Okay, you're talking about a, the NT2A is a good sounding microphone. One of the things I've had on my list of microphones to get for a while is a pair of NT2000s. I've had that, just on the list of things that if I would stop spending so much money on sound speeds, I could actually buy other things. But the NT2A, to me, they're wonderful sounding microphones, and I would love to use them as a stereo pair. You can use them because they're one of the few condenser microphones that has a binaural pattern that are very low noise, that just, they have all the bells and whistles. You could do a Blumline stereo recording. You could put them one on top of the other. You could even do a stereo XY. You could do an AB space pair. You could do a whole bunch of different things with those microphones, pretty much do any array you wanted to. Granted, it's not going to be like a front capsule on a cardioid and then a binaural on the top. You can easily do that, though. It's not going to be the configuration where you would use a different microphone from the front and do an MS, but you can still use a pair of them, and you just have to be able to, put the stands up. Anyway, very popular choice. Yeah, NT2A. SM57. How far behind am I in chat? I'm always behind in chat. Now I'm only 24 minutes behind. SM57 can handle the screaming. Yes, it can. Lane's, let's see, where did Lane ask something? Oh, burnt through 2U87. Oh, that's not me. I was like, Lane Staley burned through 2U87s on the first album. Ed Hendership for Metal Live, Shure Beta 87A, or Audix OM7. For the studio, use the SM7B, but my secret weapon is the Sennheiser MD441. That's a nice microphone. I like the 441. As long as you don't use it in one of the presence boosted type settings, it's more the more natural type sounds. I really like it. If it's the one I'm thinking about, I think that's the one that's more square and longer. It's like a black microphone with a silver end. Is that the one that I'm thinking of? Or is that the 8 something? I don't know. Not my specialty again, but I think it's the microphone I'm thinking of. And I was like, oh, I like the way that one sounds. I remember when Banjo was using it. I was like, oh, I like it in the more natural mode. Hey, Alan, how much of the dialogue in films is ADR? I've heard from as low as 30 to as high as 90% and want to know the truth. Also, sound devices 668, a good mixer. Let me start with that. Yes, it is a very good mixer. Well, it's technically a recorder. But yeah, it's great. You said 668. Is it not a 688? I'm familiar with the 633, the 664, and the 688. But the 668, I think you mean 688, or do you mean? I think that's what you mean. Probably 688. Yeah, it's great. And you can, if you buy the expansion, off the bottom of it, it gives you an additional 6 channels. And you can have what is it? CL6, 12, whatever it is. It gives you an expansion off the bottom for like another $1,000 or something like that now, because now they've been discontinued, but you can then have a 12-channel multi-track recorder. And they're, I think, technically discontinued, or if they haven't been officially discontinued, they're not really selling them anymore because they've been replaced by the 8 series, but they are great as far as I'm concerned. I love them. As a matter of fact, I have thought many times about if I see a good deal on a 688 with that expansion on the bottom, and I almost bought one at one point a couple of months ago. What am I going to do with it? Not a thing. I'm probably going to just put it on a shelf and then say, oh, let me blow the dust off of this and use it. But I want it for the Dan Dugan Auto Mix. The ability to record 12 channels and do a Dan Dugan Auto Mix. Oh, that's great. It's one of the products that's actually licensed for the Dugan Auto Mix, and I love it. It's great. I did a seminar at my union hall. I think it was in fall 2017. I think it was. And we had 9 boom operators and 1 additional microphone that people could come up and ask us questions on. And I hired a mixer who had a 688 and that expansion on it. And he mixed everything. But he didn't listen to me. He made the mistake, and I was very specific. I said, I want you to buy, with the money we're paying you, I want you to buy a 32 gig card, not a 16, because we're multi-channeling a lot of tracks for 3 hours. We're going to have a break in the middle, but we're going to be doing this for a 3-hour-long seminar. And I said, I want you to record a multi-track of everything, and I want you to have the mix track. And he said, okay. He didn't listen. He bought a 16 gig card, and he also recorded an MP3 of it, so that way the union would have their lower quality compressed version they could put on on their website if they wanted to at some point. But the memory card ran out, probably like 2 hours and 40 minutes in or something like that. And so the only thing I have is the multi-track of the MP3. I was so frustrated. I was very, very frustrated about that. And so I told myself that at some point I want to get a 688. I would put it in Dugan Auto Mix, hit record, let the Auto Mix mix down a live track for me, and then I'd have the ISOs, but I could do it all myself and just do it for the rental. Because that kind of thing again, it was too, I tried taking it from the WAV file to the MP3 at some point, but I could not make it sound right because I did not have the ISOs to pull it from, and it was being mixed by hand by a human, and he sometimes missed cues by no fault of his own, just from people talking and 9 panelists. So it was like, it was me, and there was like 8 other boom operators, and then there was the person. And so personally, I would not. He was young. He was a young mixer. I know he wouldn't make that mistake again because he admitted, he said, I should have listened. I should have gotten the bigger card. And he learned, but I'm not against hiring him again by any means. I just want people to do it the way that I want it to. And I would probably tell him to set the gain on everybody and then run a Dugan Auto Mix on it and just sit there and watch it. And I would hire him to do that. But actual mix the thing, he doesn't need to. Anyway. Okay, so to answer your question, how much dialogue in film is ADR? I heard from as low as 30 to as high as 90. Okay, let me address that part of it. It depends. When you're talking about a show like Game of Thrones, there are going to be ways of getting a boom in there, fighting a boom in there. And it's then going to rely on post being able to clean up all the clinks and stuff of the metal of the armor, because if you look at the behind the scenes, you'll hear a lot of that. The armor just goes clink, 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 clink all over the place. When you do a show and you don't have lobs on them, and they're constantly running a wide shot because they don't care about sound, you're going to be fighting to get the boom in there. In some circumstances, it is extremely difficult for you to get a boom on someone. Low ceilings, for example. Some movies will take place in very confined spaces, or it's just acoustically not going to be great, or there's going to be rain falling constantly, or there's going to be a lot of background noise. You're doing a train sequence or something like that with people talking, and you're going to be shooting in a nightclub, and they say we don't want to use a thumper track, or they do use a thumper track, and the chandeliers are going, and so it's vibrating right in the vocal frequency range. And you're like, well, can we bring it down a little bit? And they're like, well, we can't hear the thumper anymore. So it's like, you have different issues. The real thing is, for the most part, they want to use the boom. Post is able to scrub it up. Now, what they're not going to be using is the mix track. Most of the time, the Post will prefer to actually use the ISOs and produce their own mix track. They can scrub each track, make it sound each way the way they want it to. Then they could easily do the same thing over here. They'll level everything the way they want it to, prep each track the way they want it to be, and then they'll go do this number and they'll play with it the way they need it to, and they won't use the mix track a lot anymore. God's honest truth of it. I hate to tell that to sound mixers, but right now you are basically a recordist, provided that you set up the gear correctly and you have done your work in prep or whatever to make sure that we have, low noise floors and we have everything as good as we possibly can get it. Your work, for the most part, is going to be done by your team in the modern era. And because the mix track is not going to be used nearly as much. They're going to be using the ISOs. And there may be exceptions. There may be post guys that say, I can always trust this mixer's mix. But more often than not, I'm hearing from post guys, they prefer to actually mix their own track. They prefer to mix it from their ISOs. So that means you need a good quality boom. You need good quality lavs that are recording at proper settings, and you need it to record properly in the mixer, and then they will use that in post. Now, if there's a way for them to scrub that track, they will do that. Now, shows may ADR something, like if it's fast-paced television, they may not have a chance to do anything in ADR unless it's a change of dialogue, or it's an ad, something that was added, like an extra line to bridge a gap. Like if I were to say something like, if it was written in the script where I say, look at this background, doesn't it look great? And then I go back to the audience and I say, what you need to think about is this. Yeah, they may say that just seems so abrupt. There needs to be something in there. Someone says, isn't this background, doesn't it look great? I'm sorry, I got distracted. Then they say their line. They might add in ADR, sorry, I got distracted for a second. And then that bridges a quick gap, and they could add that line. Or a change. If I were to say, like one of I was on a movie, it was, not Nancy Drew, it was Dolly Parton, Coat of Many Colors. It was the movie. There was a part on set where the girl who played young Dolly, who was like 8 years old, she said, I thought you's a haint. Well, haint is Southern speak for ghost. But when I listened to that, I was like, no one's going to know what a haint is. They're going to change it to ghost in post. Because I didn't even know what it was at first. I had to look it up. I'm like, what is a haint? And then when I heard her say it, I thought you's a haint. And then she continues. And I was like, they're never going to use that. I tried to ask, is there another word that we could say just, as an alternate, just in case? And I talked to the script supervisor, and they're like, no, they want to record this. And I knew, sure as the world, when we watched the movie, it wasn't going to be haint. And wouldn't you know it, they happened to change it to the word ghost. I thought you was a ghost. Well, that was, people on set not listening to me. But then it's not my job to tell people, you might want to try to do an alternate. That's not my job. I'll mention it to the script supervisor. Do you think people are going to know what haint is? Do you think that it would be worth mentioning to the director that perhaps saying the word ghost instead might be an alternate they could try? Script supervisor might mention it or whatever, and might not. I don't know. But what I do know is that I was thinking it, and I think I said something, but can't recall. But then when I saw it, I was like, I know that was a change. That was a change that I knew was going to happen, but for the most part, they used our production dialogue. Ken Strain has a brilliant phrase that I really love to repeat. The lavs capture the dialogue, but a boom captures the performance. That to me is great. That is it right there. Like, sure, a GoPro could capture the movie, but an Arri Alexa, oh, that's going to make it look good. Just like a boom is going to make it sound good. So I credit him with that quote, by the way. That was a brilliant quote of Ken's. But if you're in a movie that has a lot of noisy stuff in the background, there's a lot of people running around, you know that there's probably going to be goes back to Liberty's thing earlier. It's going to have an increased ambience level, and there's going to be a lot of people talking and background movement and stuff like that. There could be a nightclub. If everybody's dancing, then you know it's going to have music. It's going to cover it up too. So they may say, we'll be able to scrub these tracks well enough, and they may not ADR it at all. But then, of course, they also, like one of the things that I was told that they did on Robert Downey Jr. when he does the Marvel movies is he ADRs all of his dialogue, but not to replace the audio that was recorded production-wise. What they'll do is they'll record it on a U87 and then take just the lower frequencies and they'll overlap it over the production dialogue to add a little bit more bass to his voice. They tried EQing it, but it's not the same as if they have him ADR'd and then they pull in that voice characteristic, that bass, and then just slip it and align it. And it's much better if they want to give him a little bit more, low-end richness in that. And so they do that using the U87. This is what it was explained to me. And I thought that was brilliant. I was like, wow, that's really cool. And in that case, then they would ADR all of his dialogue in order to overlap it over him so that way he sounds a certain way for the entire movie. So there's been movies I've done and I've heard later, we didn't have to ADR anything. Great job. And then I've been told, I was on a movie at one point, and then I was told, I worked with one of the actors again. He said, yeah, I had to ADR that entire movie, by the way. I'm like, what? And so my mixer, I said, wait a second, can you reach out to Post and find out? And he said, oh yeah, I'm going to find out. Because he said, you're on my S list because I had to ADR that entire movie we did together. I'm like, well, I came to find out it was a creative decision. The director wanted to hear what ADR would sound like. Then they ended up using the production dialogue because I looked at it and was like, no, that's the performance. That's a performance. That's not sound design. But actors still have to do it. So as far as an actor is concerned, they still had to ADR the thing. So, it's a little frustrating to them. But for the most part, they'll try to use the production dialogue in any possible way. And they'll scrub the tracks out. They'll use a lot of really great tools inside of Isotope RX, and they'll make it sound really good. And they will certainly do that. But what they're not going to be able to do is fix things like off-axis microphones. So if your boom is off-axis, they're going to have to ADR it to fix it. If your lav if it gets humidity or if it gets sweat inside of it, it's like that, and the boom track is useless, they're going to have to ADR that. If there's footsteps going clip, 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 clop, clip, clop, clip, clop upstairs in a stairwell in an office building, and the whole place is made of concrete and it's reverbing all over the place, that's really aggressive. And not just that, if there's a Steadicam operator and there's a dolly grip and there's a boom operator, you're going to have all these extra footsteps over it. If it's too strong in that kind of environment, they may have to ADR that sequence because there's no way for them to get rid of all those footsteps without cutting in too much in the vocal frequencies. So I don't like saying it depends, but it depends. Most of the time they're going to be using, there's many movies I've done where they've said we didn't have to ADR anything. And there's been other movies where they've said, yeah, we had to ADR some, but not a whole lot. I don't think I've ever done anything that they've had ADR the entire thing or wanted to go that direction. Most of the time we do very, very good solid tracks and they call us back. Okay. Pro Gear needs more in-depth reviews and consumer and prosumer gear. Yeah, I know. That's why I do them. BPTRX is great for the money. I love it. Yeah, it is. Its limitations are the transmission band is consumer frequencies that are overloaded. There's way too much in that frequency spectrum, 2.4 gigs. So anyway. All right, so I finally caught up on all the questions. Awesome. So now I have no delay on any of the questions. But hopefully I've given you an in-depth answer to everything. What is this comment? I saw something that popped up on the screen. I see a lot of folks selling used CMITs online recently. Interesting. I remember when the CMIT came out, people were using things like the CMC 641, the Sennheiser MKH50, things like that inside. And then when the CMIT came out, people loved the way it sucked in the sound. I remember thinking it was pretty amazing. It was a shotgun microphone. It was very bright. It still is. But it also has the ability to pull in sound. And it would pull in any sound that was down the barrel, it's going to pull out. But it also sometimes makes it more, I don't want to say difficult to play off axis, because it's not, if you know the pattern. But to me, it sounds, it's very bright. I prefer personally more neutral microphones, more that are more natural, or slightly darker as a rule than bright. Oh, thanks, Liberty. I don't know what that said. I'll look at it here in a second. Cult ZipViz face ceremony. Okay. Well, I do have ZipViz here. I also have the thing that you said jokingly, oh, you should get this. And then I bought it. And then you were like, oh, you shouldn't buy that, but I bought it. So let's see. The CMITs, though, I remember when they first came out, it became one that people would use instead of like a 416 to 816, something along those lines, in preambulator booms. Preambulator booms, you have to keep the microphone up higher, and a lot of people will use something like that if you have to play higher over a set because of lighting or studio audience, that kind of thing. They'll put in a preambulator, they'll easily put in a CMIT. It's a very common microphone, but there are a lot of new microphones that people may be wanting to use instead. That may be why they're selling them. There's also the CMIT Mini, which I know removes the 3 switches, or the 3 buttons, I should say. And if you do, want to if you don't mind the 4th order roll off, and basically like if you enabled all the switches on a CMIT 5U, I think we tested a CMIT 5U versus a Mini CMIT, and I think it was like if you did the 2 roll-offs and the presence boost, and you enabled all 3 of those things, I think it pretty much, not perfectly, but I think it was pretty close match to the Mini CMIT. Mini CMIT sounds fine if you like the sound of the CMITs and you don't mind the fourth a pretty aggressive roll-off. It's not the exact same as I think it's a 3rd order and a 1st order roll off that are at different frequencies on the CMIT. And then there's a high presence boosting shelf, that you can enable. So I remember different mixers would say, I need that to say, that go green, red, green, or they would say it's going to be red, red, green, or it's going to be green, red, green, or whatever. So, but CMITs, I mean, a lot of people I know still love them. They'll still use them almost exclusively exterior. I was working with the sound mixer, Shirley Libby on Walking Dead. Love Shirley. And I remember when I came aboard with her on season 1 of Walking Dead, it was to cover a boom operator who was bitten by a snake. It's funny because he tried to take a 18-inch stick and he tried to move like a copperhead or a cottonmouth, one of the two, out of his garage, and it bit his hand and he went to the hospital for a few days. And I was like, dude, you're a boom operator. You could have taken a 20-foot stick and sent the thing into another county. He's like, I know. Anyway, I covered him for episode 5, for the first half of the episode 5 of Walking Dead season 1. And she told me that they had already blown 2 of her CMITs by insisting on doing full load gunfire in a lot of it. And just because it's so loud constantly, constant full loads, she blew 2 of her CMIT 5Us. And I was like, yikes. This is in 2009. Anyway, my collars on my PSC Elite pole are starting to get bad. I need to rewatch your video on pole maintenance. Yeah, but that's almost specifically for ambient booms. Is why it's called a very simple ambient repair. What I would say is if your PSC Elite pole is needing a little bit of TLC, I would reach out to Pro Sound Corporation and ask them if they have a tune-up service or something you could send it into them and have them tweak it back to factory specs. I know K-Tech does a brilliant job with that. I think Ambient will do that if you're in Europe or someplace where you can get them to pull, or you want to send it to them, you can. But I think Reading would be, the company that would be more apt to do that. But personally, I don't know if they do that or not. I think they do, because I've heard people say, "Oh, I'm going to take my boom. I've sent my boom to True Audio to get them to, fix it." And I'm like, why don't you do your own repair? Because you can get the kit for like $7 and watch my video on how to do an ambient repair. But PSCs, you might want to ask PSC, Pro Sound Corporation, and ask them if they could do some maintenance on it and tweak it back to factory specs. They may say, "Oh yeah, it's $125 and we'll do it all. Repair anything that is necessary." I don't know. Okay, my collar is on my PSC, so if they need a little bit of TLC, then do that. And then you say you bought it used. Yeah, but PSCs are nice poles. When they work well, they're nice poles. Just do some maintenance and they're good. Matthew, I'm glad you arrived. I have been waiting for you because I'm going to answer your question now live. Here we go. Okay, so Matthew's question is, maybe during one of your late night rants, you can tell us what you think about long working hours in the film industry. Thanks for your content. And you do mention a video, or a post rather. And I did look at that article and I have read it. You know what? It's not up on the screen right now, so I'm not going to be able to switch to it. But what I will say is I did look over the article and I know what you're talking about. One of the legendary directors of photography, Haskell Wexler, he made a wonderful documentary called Who Needs Sleep? And he posted, and it's now available for sale on Vimeo. I'll find the link for it real quick and I will put it out there. Who Needs Sleep is a documentary where it is all about the film industry and who is doing and sleep deprivation is the best way for me to put it. Okay, let me go ahead and put this in the chat for you to see. Okay. And Eldest, if you're still here, by the way, Streamlabs, whenever I click sign in to OBS, it opens in a web browser and it doesn't actually let me access the chat. It's annoying. It just puts it in its own thing. So I hate that. Anyway, I have to put chat in its own separate chat window, which is on YouTube. I can't use OBS, which drives me nuts. Okay. I've talked about this in a few of my videos, long hours. Here's the thing. Originally, film industry was 8 hours a day, like everything else. Then over time, they wanted to increase rates, but they weren't able to, a lot of the studios weren't able to do that. But what they did say is, well, I'll tell you what, we'll work you 8, but we'll pay you for 10. So they started getting a 10-hour guarantee. And they would say, well, we'll give you 10 hours. We'll pay you for 10 hours. Okay. That's a way of making more money. And they said, okay, that's great. But then after they started doing that to a bunch of people, they started saying, well, geez, if we're paying you for 10 hours, we want to work you for 10 hours. So they started working people for 10 hours. Then they started saying, well, wait a minute. Now we're not getting our money's worth out of it anymore, even at time and a half. So I want 12 hours. And they said, okay, fine. So they started increasing people's wages. They were working you 10 hours and they pay you for 12. And then over the course of time, that went away. And then now it's like pretty much whatever hours they want to work you, 12, 14, 16, 20 hours if they want to, and the crew is willing to tolerate that. But the thing is, long hours, especially time after time, will really get exhausting. It's extremely tiring to, especially if you start a day at like 7 a.m. and you wrap at 11 p.m. Then the next day they bring you in at 11 a.m., 12-hour turnaround even, it's fine. Or unless they give you a more minimal, because by the time you get out of there, it's 1, and then they bring you in at 11, so it's only a 10-hour. But then you go in at 11, and then they work at 11 a.m., and then they work you until 2 a.m. And then you go to sleep, and you wake up the next day, and you go into work at 1 p.m. for an 11-hour turnaround. Then they work you until 4 a.m. and then you go to sleep, and then you wake up, and then you come in at 3 p.m., and then they work you until 6 a.m., and then you're brain dead. You go home. By this point, you're exhausted, and you slowly changed your schedule, your biological schedule, to push yourself back more. And that gets very, very tiring very quickly, especially by the time you wake up early Saturday morning from working Friday, and they say, oh, great, we'll see you 7 a.m. on Monday. You're like, oh. You spend all weekend trying to play catch up on your sleep and reverse your sleep schedule from when you came in at 5 p.m. on Friday afternoon to 7 a.m. 2 days later. It's very tiring. And there's a big push for 12 on, 12 off. And Haskell Wexler, in his documentary, Who Needs Sleep, he interviews multiple different crew members. He interviews a bunch of different people, some actors who will say, if they start to see that the crew is being abused or something like that, they'll say something, speak up, or they will intentionally stay in their trailers extra amount of time to give the crew a break. They'll say, oh, this actor is not going to leave their trailer for another hour and a half. So that way the crew will probably say, all right, I'm going to be able to sit and maybe catch some Z's. They'll try to do something like that. Or they'll say, I can't, if they're asked by a production, for example, would you be willing to take a minimal turnaround tomorrow and come in at a 10-hour day, which means paying more money? They'll say, no, I'm going to require my 12-hour guarantee to give the crew a fighting chance. Julia Roberts, I think, said in that video, Haskell Wexler's documentary, that she did that. She's done that. The main point here that I'm trying to make is that long hours are extremely tiring. They're also extremely dangerous. You can't change your schedule back and forth for weeks on end, for months on end, and not feel the effects. I know many people that have dozed off behind the wheel and have either crashed or something like that. I've dozed off behind the wheel since I've had this channel. When I first started this channel, I did a video every 3 days, and I did that for 100 days. And while I was doing that, I got overly tired on an hour and a half drive home from Walking Dead, and that was in no traffic, so it was probably closer to 2 hours. And I thought, I got in my car. I thought I'd be fine. I'm like, you know what? I'm starting to get a little loopy here. My first turn off that I'm going to always be able to there's a quick trip coming up in 1 mile. I'm going to pull off there because I start to feel myself getting a little bit loopy. I'm going to go ahead and pull off there, and I'm going to do what I always do and suggest, which is a video that I have, one of my first videos called Life-Saving Cat Nap. And I backed myself into Quick Trip. I leave the car running, set an alarm for just over 20 minutes. And then what I do is I basically, I don't park right in front of the place. I park a little bit farther down. That way I'm not getting in the people's way, and I'm taking a prime parking space. But then I always leave my car running. I always make sure the doors are locked. I lean back and I get some Z's for 20, 30 minutes. Then I resume on the road. Now that can throw off your overnight schedule because you're going to be alert enough to make it home. And then you might not be able to get to sleep nearly as easy, but that might be when you would take something like what I take is valerian root if I need it. Formula 303 is a great product as far as I'm concerned, and I mentioned it before, but you can buy it on Amazon, or something that has valerian root in it if you want a natural approach, which I like a lot of natural things, even though you wouldn't think of it to look at me. Some people will take melatonin. Melatonin is also good, but if you need to quickly get up after like 4 or so hours, sometimes you can take melatonin to get into your system. And as long as you got a full night's sleep ahead of you, melatonin will help you to get the first 4 or so hours, and it'll help you to get that. That's fine. Valerian root will relax you though, and then help you to fully relax so you can go to sleep. But the thing about it is you cannot talk yourself out of needing sleep. It's like trying to convince a newborn baby to go back to sleep. They're not going to listen to it. Your body ain't going to listen to it. So the big thing I would say on that is my personal preference is to try to, I worked with, there was a wonderful UPM, I think he was, on Necessary Roughness seasons 2 and 3 when I was there. His name was Kelly. Former military guy. He's gotten in the film industry. He was wonderful. Love Kelly. And one of the things that he was known for is if the writers would write a scene that would take place at night someplace, he's like, does it have to be at night? Why you have to write an exterior night sequence? What's it benefit? Move it inside. And then they'd be like, okay. And then they move it inside. Or he would say, why does it have to be outside at the stadium? Which would mean bringing us in later on a stadium day, and we'd have like a football sequence, and we'd have to do a night sequence. It happened a couple of times, but he would look at it and say, move it inside. Why does it have to be the stadium at night? And I said, well, because we have to have someone thinking about it, whatever. He could be thinking in his office, looking out from the interior of stage 5. He doesn't need to be at this stadium. Well, we'd like it to be the stadium. No, rewrite it. And he would kick it back and tell him to redo it. And they would do it. The writers would change the sequence, the location, where someone isn't going to be sitting there thinking at the football stadium at night with fog machines running all around him. No, he could be thinking, looking out of his office at the training facility. And that way we have ownership of it. We can instantly get in there during the day and shoot it as if it's a night sequence. Still fits in the timeline perfectly. But I love that approach. And for that reason, we didn't do a whole lot of overnights on that show. But there's other shows that will just have no problem abusing you, and they will do that. And I am very against that kind of thing. It's very, very tiring as long as they give you a full turnaround. But one of the things I'll also tell you is that it is a union. If you are a union person, you have this advantage. If you are on a show and they are working you 14 hours, over 13, I believe is what it is contractually. I could be off on that. But I know that if it's at least, I think it's at least 12, maybe it's at least 13, might be 14. But if you work an extended amount of time, you are entitled to a hotel room. So you can tell them to put you up, and they may, it's part of the agreement. It's in the ASA contract. They can do that. Now, what some shows were doing pre-COVID is they would say, if you would prefer in lieu of that, if you would like to, so we're back at the same studio tomorrow, if you would, in lieu of not having a hotel room, if you would take an Uber there and then take an Uber back tomorrow, we'll cover that instead. It would be cheaper than a hotel room, and they still get to get home to their family, and they don't have to drive in. It hasn't happened as much in the post-COVID world, but it was an option pre-COVID. Now, granted, I did it one time on P-Valley. We had worked a late night, and we were like at 14 hours, and I was bug-eyed. I was really tired. I was like barely able to see straight, and we worked like another hour and a half. And when we wrapped, I was like barely able to see straight. It was a walk away. I pushed my stuff in, and I was like, I'm going to call an Uber. I'm going to call an Uber tonight. And I did. And I had to pick him up just outside the gate. The Uber driver came out and picked me up. Oh, you work in the movies. Can I ask you a couple of questions? I'm like, sure. You know me. If there's any brain functionality left, I'll at least talk with you about it. And so I was like, sure. And so she asked me a couple of questions. Then she asked me a couple more questions. And she asked me a couple more questions. And finally I was awake at this point talking to her. So at this point, I guess you could say I could have driven myself home at this point, but I was in no condition to drive when I left, and she would not have been talking to me if I wasn't in her car. She drove me home, dropped me off, thanked me for my time or whatever else. I did the tip. And then the next day I called an Uber driver, picked me up, gave me the address, put it in Uber. And this driver was the opposite. This driver, I walked in the car. I got in the car. I greeted him, after verifying the car was correct. How's it going today? Turned on the radio. Instantly, I'm like, well, Miss Personality. And then after about 15, 20 minutes, she decides to make a phone call, just chatting away. And then after that, she gets off the phone call after a few minutes and then goes back to listening to music. Okay, fine, whatever. We were shooting at Tyler Perry, Fort McPherson Studios. And when you get off on 161, it loops around, and then it kind of goes up, and then it kind of goes down a hill, loops around. It's near a MARTA station right there on the right. And as it gets down the bottom, there's a traffic light, and it continues to the right if you're staying on the road. Or you can take a left and go into Tyler Perry Studios, then you go through the roundabout and into security. Well, this person who was very cold to me and not wanting to have any discussion, which first thing in the morning, I'm fine with. I'm just getting a ride back. I would have preferred to have the person that was chatty chat with me on my way in and have the person that was not the least bit interested in chatting take me home. But that's not the way it worked, is it? So I drove in, and about the time we got there, person says, this here says it's inside of that's Tyler Perry Studios up there. I'm like, that's correct. You're having me drop you off at Tyler Perry Studios? Yeah. Instantly turned down the radio. So wait a minute, you work in movies? I'm like, yeah. Hey, can I ask you a question? I'm like, well, just pull up in here, go through the roundabout and drop me off at security. They're not going to let you all the way in there. Well, can I ask you a question? Just go on in there first. And at this point, I was not about to give this person an inch. They waited until the last minute or so of an hour-long car ride to finally not be a jerk? No, I'm not going to answer anything that you have to say. But I'm not going to sit there and argue with him or fight with him or whatever else. I'm like, yeah, I understand. Hold on one second. Let's just go around here to the roundabout, and you see security. They're not going to let you in. And I just kept talking at that point. Yeah, just go around here, and then I'll jump out right over here. All right, well, thank you very much. And I got out of there. Not about to give that person time of day if they're going to be rude. Sure, I still tipped, but, whatever. So anyway, it says, what was that? Message retracted on the screen? It probably popped up there, and I'll get to read it in a chat in a moment. But anyway, so my main point here is you have options you can do certain things. I personally prefer, especially in the post-COVID world, to get a hotel room. If you feel like it's unsafe, look at the contract, see when you're allowed to get a hotel room, and take them up on that. And don't be afraid to pack your clothes and do that. If they're abusing you with the hours, don't be afraid to use that hotel room. You're not going to see your family anyway, are you? So you might as well take the hotel room, get an adequate amount of sleep, and you know what? Put that cost on the production. Because if they're going to work you really long hours and then you have a drive home and you're going to just basically shower and crash and then go back to work the next day, you might as well at least get a little bit of extra sleep and rest and try to recoup a little bit of the time you lost and take them up on that, because it is one of your negotiated rights. So I would say do that, because it is definitely important for you to get the adequate amount of rest if there's any way in the world you possibly can. So do that. Look at the contract, ASA contract, ask your steward, on-set steward, or call your union and ask them if you have any questions about the show you're on and they're working long hours. But, you're not allowed to, IATSE has a no strike policy. You're not allowed to strike. So what you can do is, if collectively the entire crew is unhappy with conditions that they find to be unsafe or, unsafe or unhealthy working environment. If the entire crew collectively comes together and says, we're not having this, you can stage a walk-off, but the entire crew has to do it. You can't just have one department leave. Otherwise, they're going to say, okay, well, we're going to replace that team. All y'all are gone. You don't just walk off a show. If the entire crew walks off because collectively everyone determines that it's not acceptable, you're not saying that we're striking. What you're saying is, we disagree with this. We're not being treated correctly. We're being treated unsafely. This is unhealthy. You need to fix this. We're out of here. That is something you can do, but it cannot be organized. It has to be something that the steward on the show, if they hear a lot of grumbling and a lot of the crew are saying this is unacceptable, then the crew of that show, union crew, can come together and collectively decide that. That's my understanding. That's the way that it was mentioned at some point when it came up at one point. I was a steward on a show and someone asked me about it. It was at least one contract I was working under, but I do know about the no strike policy. So you can't just decide to strike because, oh, you know what? I'm going to call a strike here. You can't do that. They'll shut you down real quick. Your union will actually say, we do not support you at all. You overstepped your grounds, and they're not going to have your back on that at all. The production is going to be very, very mad at you. You can't do that. So there you go. Hopefully that answers your question about that, but I highly recommend Haskell Wexler's documentary, Who Needs Sleep. And they interview a lot of people, a lot of actors, a lot of top tier Hollywood people, and they talk about unsafe driving conditions and stuff like that. That was very, very rough on the drive home. So there you go. I think I answered your question, hopefully adequately. Okay, so now we're back to our regular scheduled program. Let me play catch up on this. What sort of questions do you ask a mixer you will boom for before working together for the first time? Hold on a second. I actually have to back up a bit. Looks like I'm right on time. Okay, yeah, I did wait to answer. You told me you were going to be coming after you left your show. Patrick actually asked first. Hey, Alan, could you please give us your thoughts on the problem of Microbudget, where you provide excellent sound for peanuts only to have a Microbudget post audio turn you into a sound clown? Yeah. Here's the thing, and I've said this many times before, the expectation of the audio department and the sound department is the same regardless of your budget. You have to have your microphones on axis. The lavs cannot be scratchy. You cannot just record on whatever frame rate you want to, or decide you're not going to arm certain tracks, or have a really, you can't do any of this stuff. You can't just decide to sacrifice and, oh yeah, we're just going to leave the AC rolling in this. I don't care. Can't do that. You still have to do that. Unlike camera, who can say, well, we just don't have the camera for that. We don't have the lens for that. So we're going to have to compensate or sacrifice that shot because we can't afford a crane. You're going to have to do it. Expectations, sound department are the exact same though. You can't you can't listen to an off-axis microphone and say, oh no, that was a creative decision that I thought that it would be really cool to have an off-axis microphone sound. No. That lav scratch, I thought that would be a really creative touch. No. Camera is shaky. Ooh, that was creative. Camera is out of focus. Ooh, that was such a creative decision on that. Camera's not processed right. It's all green, it's all yellow, it's all brown, whatever else. Wow, that was really artistic. Here you go. That's you're still going to be at the mercy of post. Post can sometimes do great things with your track. Sometimes they overprocess it to death and they crap on it. The best thing you can do if you're mixing a small project is see if you can get in touch with the person that's going to be doing the sound. Ask them if there's anything you can do to be helpful to them. I'm giving you really clean tracks. I really want you to do a good job with them. And if there's anything I can do to help your process, to give you something else that you would need that would be beneficial to you, let me know, because we're shooting this and I want you to have great tracks. You're going to make my track sound really good. I really want that to happen. And is there anything I can do? And they'll say, oh yeah, I got you. You know, if you give me room tone, you're like, haven't gotten room tone in a long time, but that's fine. I'll do that for you if that's what it takes. If he says, I'd like you to wildline any scenes unless it's completely quiet. Fine, I'll get it done. And you talk to the director. You say, post his request that we wildline scenes if the background noise is too high. And then they'll probably, complain, but they'll still do it. But the big thing is communicate with post. Talk with post about things. Make sure that you and whoever's in post has a mutual understanding of what the expectations are. You tell them you want them to be able to use your sound as much as possible. What can I do for you to make sure of that? Do you like the tracks you're hearing so far? Don't just call them before the show starts and then break all contact with them. Communicate with them after they got the first deliverables and you delivered the first sound files to them. Talk to them again after the next couple of days or something like that as you're establishing routine, and then they'll say, I'm getting great stuff out of you. I love everything. Great. Well, no problem then. But then they could say, oh man, you know what I need room tone. Or they'll tell you what they need. Okay, cool. That kind of thing. Sometimes it's just wild lines on certain situations. But that would be a big thing is keep an open communication with post and know who that person is by name. Do you regret letting crew know you charge iPhones? No, as long as I don't have a problem with that because it takes them off the set. The big thing we always say is make sure that you put it in silent mode. Vibration mode is not silent. So make sure it's in silent, because if it vibrates and it's on the sound cart, that's not going to be good. You will never be able to charge your phone on it. So as soon as the phone is dropped off, make sure it's in silent, please. Not vibrate. Okay, sure, no problem. That's the big thing, is if it's going to be on the sound card. And that way also, sometimes you can, one of the things you'd also recommend is say, do me a favor, put it in airplane mode and then put it in silent mode. You can say that too. If you run your antennas off of the sound cart and you have multiple things right there on the card and you don't want to have a lot of RF, you can say, if you put it in and they may say, do I really have to? And say, well, I'd appreciate it. It'll also help your phone charge quicker. And then it's usually take it out of airplane mode. It's not going to download anything anyway. It's going to make your phone charge up faster though. And it's going to help us out with our RF. And they're going to be like, oh, okay, cool. And then they'll usually do it. Now, the exception would be is if they're going to plug it up and stand there with your cart. That's a bit on the annoying side sometimes. But then sometimes the sound mixer will look at them and just keep them chatting. Oh, you're going to stand with me. Cool. And oh, cool. I don't have a chance to talk to you much. How's it going? They're like, I'm just trying to do this real quick. Let me just check this email. Oh yeah, sure. No problem. But, I've been wanting to play catch up with you. That's awesome. The sound person, fine. Airplane mode, leave if they don't want to talk to you. Anyway. Now the question about what do I ask my mixer, a mixer before. It's funny because I had a sound mixer at one point tell me, he said, I've never been interviewed by a boom operator before. I'm like, that's crazy to me. Because a boom operator needs to understand certain things about a mixer. If I've never worked with a mixer, there's a few questions I'm going to want to ask. How they handle certain circumstances, for example. I think I talked about this in my how to handle sound mixer video in the 3BO series. But one of the things that I'll do is I'll say, so if you wouldn't mind telling me, let's go over the options that I have microphone wise. And they'll say, oh, I use the MKH50s. I have Cub 1s. I have DPA 4017Ms, 4098s, 4097s, and they'll tell you what they have. And they say, I have a outdoor. We always use the CMIT 5U. I do have a CS3E we can use if you want to and prefer. That's pretty much it. And like, okay, cool. Is there anything you like to use at certain times? Like if we're indoors, you always want me to default to a certain microphone, or is that my choice? And they'll say, yeah, what I prefer is this microphone indoors, this microphone outdoors. And if you need to change it, let's talk. Okay, cool. For plants, is there anything you go to? What am I running wireless boom, or am I going to be, what is my boom? How do I need my boom? How will my boom be connected up to you? My microphone connected up to you. And they'll say, oh, I'm going to give you an HMA cube, and you'll stick that on the end. And it's like, oh, okay. Or audio limited A10s. Or if they say, oh, you're going to have an MM1 on your side, well, that means it's got to be a cabled boom at that point, because you can't put an MM1 on the end of a boom. So that means that I would have to wire the boom for cabled boom, or I'm going to have to bring in one of my booms that's actually wired that way. If they say, oh, we're just going to just bring a boom and we'll just put the cube style on the back end of that. Okay, that's an option too. Depends on the wiring scheme and depends on that kind of thing. If they tell me that I'm going to be cabled, that's usually now that's a deal breaker for me. In the world that we are living in now, wireless has come such a long distance. Digital sounds wonderful. It sounds just as good as cable in so many circumstances. Granted, it's not exactly the same, but it's going to full post. Post won't know that it's wireless if you set everything up right. And so I would personally prefer not to be electrocuted. I was almost electrocuted one of the last shows I did on a cable, on a remote audio boombox version 2. I had just disconnected from my phone, or just disconnected the cable that was going to the boombox 2 and dropped the cable, and I was putting on gloves because I was about to pull my boom cable up while talking to an operator. If I routed my boom cable from here to over here, would you see it? No, not going to on this next setup. And as he just got through telling me no, I had only dropped the cable 10 seconds earlier, and all of a sudden, poof, we hear a big loud boom. What was that? Poof, same exact thing happens. And we're like, what's going on? Then all of a sudden you see a lot of people get out of the house, clear the house. And it ends up being that the rigging, one of the, I think it was the best boy, or maybe it was a rigging gaffer. Somebody, one of the electricians ran a condor into the Georgia power line and ended up routing shorted out power into the house, and it fried the entire sound card. It fried the 278Ts. It fried like the wireless venue. It fried the XLRs. There were XLRs that had melted instantly and blasted out of the back. And we had a Cat 5, industrial grade Cat 5 that was running video to Video Village. It was so powerful, the surge of power that came through that it actually surged back to the DIT, fried out some of his monitors, fried out everything except his hard drives, luckily. But the cable was actually, the Cat 5 wires on the inside had gotten so hot they had spiked that they had broken out of the insulation. Insulation was like here, and in some places it was like broken out like this. It had melted and spiked up. That's how much of a surge. It was 37,000 volts. that went down that line, and it was only about 10 seconds away from me wearing this thing on my side, holding a lightning rod, basically, a boom pole, going hardline cable into that. If that would have fried, if there would have been a circuit that completed through that cable that was on the boombox on me, and it traveled through that boombox to my boom pole that I was holding, not with gloves on there, you might not be talking to me right now. Now, somebody did videotape the sparking and stuff that happened for a good hour. And then I wasn't thinking about doing it because I don't just go around taking video on set and picture on set. But I asked if he would send that to me, and he did. So I do have that video. If you have an interest in seeing it, I can try to see if I can figure out a way to do that here in Streamlabs. But I'd have to find the video first. But that right there was a very big deal to me. And so to me, it's very much a deal breaker if a sound mixer tells me, no, you're going to be on a XLR cable. We're going to hardline you as your boom. I'll say, I'm sorry, not able to do that. Not anymore. Not after practically being fried. Not going to, it's a deal breaker for me. Now in the modern world of wireless, being as good a quality as it is, there's really no reason for me to go hardline boom pole anymore. And I'm not going to do it. Unless there's a reason, like we are having severe RF issues, something like that, then I'll resort to it. And I've called in that, run me an XLR. I'll do that. If it's my decision, I don't have a problem doing that. But I at least want, as a daily operation, I want to have an option where I'm not going to be necessarily fried if I just am trying to do my job and someone decides to do something stupid like run a condor into the, power line, Georgia power line. And I think I know where the video is. I'm looking for the video right now. It's part of one of the sound classes that I teach. It's under boom class, is it? Under safety, I believe. Let me see if I can find this video. That's a different video, but that's a very good one that I could show too. But nope. Can't show that one. That's an explosion that got out of control, and it's a video that they didn't want distributed, but I got it, and I use it in teaching. Where is it? Let me go over to my sound class. Let me do a search for volt. Because I think it was under 37,000 volts or something like that. No match. Well, I'll see if I can find it. And if so, maybe I'll do it, and I'll show it in another live stream at some point. If I ever do another one again. Live stream. Let me see if let me check one other place. No. Not there. Not that. Sound class document backup. Is it in the root directory down here? Survey says no. That's not it. Oh, I wish I could show those. YouTube would not appreciate if I played some of these, because it would say, oh, this copywritten material and you're doing a live stream. You're not allowed to play that. Oh, that's a good one. I need to use that in a video at some point. That's a Michael Bay thing. Oh, here we go. I found it. All right, let me see if I can build this into something here in Streamlabs. I think I can. Let me see if I can do this real quick, and I will change it. I will add this file. I will show it to you, because this was something that was on a movie, and you'll see the actual shocking sound class backup. Okay, there it is. You'll see the actual moment or not the moment that I was shocked at, but after we cleared the building, you'll see the way it looked when it was just sparking around. There it is. Okay, I think I've gotten this to work. Let me eliminate that. And okay, so if y'all, do you actually want to see this video? I should ask that now that I've actually set this thing up, because I do have it ready and I could play it in there if you want to see. If you have an interest in it, I will gladly play it right now so you can see it if you want to see it. Yeah, I think that's going to be it. Anyway, let's see. What sort of, but anyway, so I will ask questions like that to a sound mixer and to see if they actually have, if they can give me an idea of their preferences. Do you, like, for example, another question I'll ask a mixer is I'll say, do you always boom things on camera and off camera, or do you just concentrate on the on camera dialogue or whatever else? And people will say, and they'll say, whether they want everything on the second boom, or they'll say, oh, no, just boom the on camera, unless they specify otherwise, or unless I want to. I'll say, look, I want to protect what's on camera all times. And then they'll, sometimes they'll say, oh, yeah. Just, if we can get something off that's off camera, let's get that too. Sometimes they'll say, I don't want to run a second boom unless the person is on camera, because then they're not going to be giving their full performance. And I don't want to give that dialogue as an option to post, because then they could use it and that might not be the actor's proper performance. Different mixers have different styles. I talked about that in my sound mixer video on the 3BO. But I will ask a whole bunch of questions about what mixers like and when and how, and if they prefer to let me to call certain shots, or they want it to be in certain, do they want me to come to them and tell them everything, or do they just want me to tell them what I want them to play and when? Some mixers are like, just tell me what you want me to do. And they'll say, okay, I'll just play that live and I'll play your boom, and cool, I'll do that. Some mixers want to be involved in the process. So I'll find out how involved they want to be. And you want to see the video, so here we go.
Get the hell up.
Yeah, so that was the video. You can see all that sparking. That was going on for a good hour until Georgia Power was able to get out there and turn off that power. But it is a little bit difficult to see, but you can see that the condor had backed into Georgia Power. It had basically it bridged a connection between Georgia Power and our connection on that building, and it caused a lot of sparking, and it was doing that for a while.
Get the hell up.
So that was what it was. It was going on for quite a while that way. So pretty dangerous stuff. That is the reason why I do not want to hardline a boom anymore. Because on the level of shows that I work on and stuff like that, it's just not worth it, man. You better have wireless that's good enough. Otherwise, you're going to find another boom operator, because I just don't want to run that risk. It's not worth me getting shocked over because somebody decides that they're going to run a condor up for whatever dumb reason. I don't want to have that happen. Anyway, and then Mohammed, I'm going to butcher your middle name, Bahathir Hasim says the best medicine for sleepy is sleep. You're exactly right. Boxers or briefs? How about boxer briefs? Because, I personally like the idea of things being held in place, but at the same time, boxers they allow things to float a little too much for my care. A little more security than that. That was a joke in relation to Ken's question to mixers. Okay, thank you, sir. I have a documentary bookmarked. I will review it later in the weekend. Speaking of who needs sleep, I will be awake for a matinee tomorrow. I'll listen to the rest of your answers when I get up. Thanks again. Happy slumber, Matthew. Thank you, Liberty Dude. Good night. And then, would you ever be interested in giving a position and basic responsibilities overview of people in production on set? Best Boy Gaffer. What do you mean overview of people in production on set? Like what people do? I guess I could do a video about all the different roles on a film set and how they interact with us and what they do. I could easily do that. I could do that. I mean, I could do it now. Or would you prefer, whoa, where did my chat go? All my chat vanished. Wait a second. Where'd the chat go on the screen? Did it disappear when I jumped over to the video? It sure did. Oh, no. I lost all my chat. Oh, man. Okay, fine. Streamlabs, you need some work. I don't have like one of those viral chats that just constantly scrolls to the point where you can't see any words on it, but it eliminated the chat. I mean, I would need to probably pull up something like a call sheet and go down each role. But yeah, I could do that. I might do that in a video. Actually, what I'll do, Liberty, is that would be a pretty cool video if I were to go over all the roles. I'll just make that as a note. The different, what does it say? Position and basic responsibilities of jobs on film set. I'd want to actually like go down and find a good list and talk about all the different, different roles and what they can do and how they, and I would probably also add what they can help with regards to how those people, we rely on them in the sound department. And, obviously talk about their own jobs and that kind of thing too, but okay. Cool. Would love to see a separate video of people on sets that you, set positions. Thank you very much, Liberty Dude. Super chat. That's amazing. As always. So I will definitely do that. I'll do a video on the people on sets. Obviously, I won't be able to probably show pictures or anything like that of the sets I work on, but I will definitely do that video because that's a video that's information and I don't want to call it talking head, but I could easily go down through all the different jobs of people on a film set and talk about that. That would actually be pretty cool. I don't think I've seen video like that online. So yeah, I could do that. And then people wanted to see the video. Okay, thanks for the answers, Alan. I'm off to bed. All right, good night, Ken. Happy slumber, Kim. 12 on, 12 off. So our stream is now down. How many people do we have here? We have 13 people. We have 13 likes. That's awesome. Thank you, guys. And let me see how we are on our questions. Hey, all back from the movie. Ha. I knew you wouldn't let me down, Alan. Glad you're still streaming. What did you go to see? Wait a minute. So you left for a movie when I started streaming and you're back now? Oh, that's funny. So you must have been part of the very first stream before I called it. I remember seeing you here earlier. You went and saw a movie and came back, and here I am still blabbing away. It'd been like 3 hours. What does it say? Live for 3 hours, 2 minutes and 11 seconds, 12 seconds. That's funny. Do? What does do mean, Patrick? What does that mean? I'm looking back through comments and I don't see something you had said, Patrick, that makes any sense there. All right. We have played catch up with the chat. What is a first AD in relation to you? What are the red flags? A first AD is basically in charge of directing the crew and keeps the time clock for the day. First AD is someone who is going to help move the day. I will always develop a very quick, very good relationship with the first AD. I want them to know I'm on their side, but I also want them to know that I'm not going to delay them unless it is very important. That way, if I ever say something, they'll know it's important. And so like a first AD, for example, I'll always, I don't ask the boneheaded question, what time is lunch? Well, 6 hours after call. Or, hey, this next scene we have coming up, are you going to be wanting the actors to be in it? Those are dumb questions. I'm not going to be asking something dumb like that. What I am going to ask a first AD is I'm going to be going over something, and I'll be looking at the sides. I'm like, all right, so we have this actor in this next scene, and then the same actor is in the first scene we're starting tomorrow, right? Okay. And well, anyway, I'll ask different questions with regards to, I'll say that we're doing this scene here, and then we have them change wardrobe, then they're changing back again. And so we need to know that for wiring purposes. If we're going to be, if we have lavs that are deep in clothing and we're starting to approach lunch, and I start to anticipate, for example, that we might take a penalty, I might go to the first AD and say, the question behind the question in advance is that I'm curious as to if I need to change out batteries on our actors now, on their lavs, now that we have a moment, or are you going to be breaking us on time? Are we going to take a penalty? Because if so, I'll need to change these lavs. And they'll say, I would go ahead and change it because I've asked if we could take a penalty. Okay, thank you very much. And that way, at least I'm anticipating that way. They only have 30 minutes left, by taking a penalty. And the last thing in the world they want is me saying, you want to roll now? Let me change out these lavs and call in the utility. They don't want to have that happen. So the first AD, I always will keep them in the loop. Not too much information. I will try to phrase my questioning in such a way where it doesn't bother them for multiple seconds. If I can phrase a question in 2 seconds, I will. Try to keep it very simple, question, if they do a rehearsal and they say it's a private rehearsal and they say, well, no, we're not going to do a marking rehearsal. Well, there's no necessary for that. I'll go to the first AD and I'll say, there was no marking rehearsal. What did I miss? And they'll say, oh, the actors are just sitting there the whole time. No stand up, no sit down, anything like that. Nope. They're just there the whole time. Cool. Thank you. That's it. And then I can also, ask them questions, about anything like that in particular, as it pertains to my day. But the first AD is someone that I will always involve if I want to put down carpets or I need time for something. That is not something I can plan for in advance. If we're doing a wide shot, for example, I need to put in carpets. I'll have them standing at the edge. I'll put them on the edge with the tape there. And what I'll say is, I have my carpets right there with tape. As soon as we get out of this wide shot, I want to be able to put down carpet. So if you let me know the best time to do that, me and my utility are going to be all hands on deck to get that done as quick as possible so we don't delay you. But if you could let me know, I'll make sure we do it as quick as possible. Great. Thank you very much. And they'll plan on it, that kind of thing. But I always coordinate with the first AD. And I have argued with them before. We had a closed set. We had, nudity on a set, and I needed to call in a second, the utility to second boom. And they were very strict about who was and who was not allowed on set. And they said the boom operator's allowed, the sound utility was not. And I called the sound utility in to second boom, and I was told, nope, this is a closed set. They're not allowed on set. I'm like, they're a boom operator. No, they're not. They're a sound utility. I'm like, they are second booming this person who I cannot get a lavalier microphone on because they're nude. I need a second boom in here. They're a boom operator. Thank you very much. They need to come in on set because I can't roll until we have this, because otherwise we're not going to have the dialogue. So I need this to happen, please. And thank you. And I've been very direct like that. They're a boom operator for this scene since we can't get a lav on them. Thank you. And I will be direct if I need to. I'm not going to be rude and call them names or anything like that. But I'm like, no, this is the way it needs to be. And I've had to be very assertive sometimes before, but usually they understand that I'm not being a jerk about that. I'm covering my bases and doing things. I'm like, I have a boom operator right behind that door. As soon as you bring him in here, you can call roll and we'll roll. We are ready to go as soon as that person steps in here. They know I'm not going to call, and sometimes I'll even say, I'm not going to be assertive about something unless it's a big deal. This is a big deal. Thank you. So anyway. I was right there when you ended the first stream. Watch the John Boyega flick, Naked Singularity. Okay. Awesome. 12 on 12 all that. Notice on the Facebook IA chat that there's been a lot more discussion on work hours. Has this not improved with COVID? It has, because a lot of shows right now, okay. Some shows it's improved on. Some shows it hasn't. What shows will sometimes do is they'll say they take COVID very seriously. They want you to keep 6 feet, 15 minutes, but then how are you going to do that on a set? They'll have a 10 foot by 10 foot set they've used since season 1. It's a bedroom. You have to shoot in this small room. There's no way to do it. They're going to try to put 2 cameras, 3 cameras in there with 2 actors in there and a boom operator. We're going to be contact traced. Okay, so here's the thing. What a lot of these shows will do is they've said they're bringing in a third camera, so that way camera 1 and camera 2 will work together for maybe 3 hours. Then camera 2 and camera 3 will work together for maybe 3 hours, and camera 3 and camera 1 will work for maybe 3 hours. So that way they won't ever be too close for too long. Hopefully they can keep enough distance and not contact trace. Here's the thing though. If DPs see a camera there, they're going to want to use them. So I've worked on too many of these shows where they say, oh yeah, we have a third camera there that we're going to use as a relief and to switch out. No, you're not. That the DP is going to say, well, we have a third camera. Let's throw them over here and let's get this extra piece of coverage. That way you can turn around and we'll be quicker. That's what's going to happen. So it really is irritating because it makes our life more difficult on set as the sound team when they have additional cameras that are supposed to be there for COVID relief. But here's the thing. Some shows are now, they've gotten it, where if they scheduled a 12-hour day, normally, here's what happens. 6 hours, you sometimes need to, we're going to call a penalty and then we're going to send you away for your half-hour lunch. By the time we have a smaller amount of people that you can get on a bus or a van, then you move people to set, then you move people back from set. You call last man. A 30-minute lunch it starts when the last crew member sits down. Since everyone's spread out, there's really no way to call last man, so they'll try to spread out the PAs and find out where that's going to be. Lunch, like yesterday, for example, when they called it. No, not yesterday, on Tuesday. When they called lunch, it took 54 minutes because crew had to go through the line, get all their food, and then when the last person had gone through the line and had left, and gone and sat down at one of the designated sit-down places, that's when they were able to finally call lunch. And that's when 30 minutes begins. It took 24 minutes for people to go through the line, get down there and go through the line. Now, getting back after lunch is over, that's on you. You have to be back on time at the end of that 30 minutes. So it's a lot of the times you'll have crew members that sometimes will run to get down there to get the first person in line. That way they can hopefully be done with their lunch before they even call last man, so that way they can hopefully get a half-hour nap in. But here's the thing. Actors that leave and go to lunch will sometimes have to go back to the work. So they'll have to go through hair, makeup, and wardrobe. They'll have some sort of a thing that will delay them in coming back to set on time. In a timely manner, rather, not on time. And so you'll end up turning around, you'll set up, and then we'll be waiting. And when the actors finally come in, we can shoot. So sometimes it will take a good hour and a half sometimes to get back up if you break lunch. So you call lunch, let's say at 1 p.m. Sometimes you're not going to be shooting again until 2:30. What a lot of these shows, if they're run by people who get it, I don't want to say rude, but get it during COVID times especially, is what they'll do is they'll say, we're not going to break for lunch. We're going to work a straight 10-hour day. It's not French hours. French hours would be if you omit the meal penalties and you say, we're going to buy, in order to finish our day earlier, we're not going to recharge production meal penalties. I'm not suggesting that. What I'm suggesting is the crew work through lunch and you get a meal penalty of whatever it happens to be for the first half hour, another meal penalty, another one every 30 minutes. And you do this for, 4 hours from 6 hours into our day to 10 hours in. Now, usually what's going to happen is they're going to bring food by and you'll be able to run off set, put some food in your mouth, go back to set. You'll come back out between setups again. You'll finish eating. Sound mixer has no problem. They'll just eat at their chair. Sound utility usually will be able to do the same kind of thing from their cart. You'll have different people able to eat when they can. A camera operator during a turnaround will run off set and eat real quick. Dolly grip will usually get things into position and then quickly have another grip cover for them and they'll go off and eat. Things like that. So you don't get an official break where you might be able to take your lunch break and nap or do what you want to, but you're at least able to keep yourself in energy by eating. So that's one of those things that will usually happen. And that also means the actors are staying in the works. They're staying on set. They're never leaving. You'll turn around and that actor will get a break and they'll be able to eat and still get their hair, makeup, and wardrobe touches, but they may not go to their trailer. So they're going to be on set just like they always are, and they're going to be working on things that way. As soon as they're done, they're going to go back to set, do another shot, And then when we finish that scene and we're moving on to another scene, they'll go back to the trailer, change wardrobe, whatever else. You stay in the works. But the thing is, though, since you're not officially breaking for lunch, your body doesn't go, and drain. And so you don't come back from lunch and you're like, oh man, now I got to get my brain back in gear. The actors aren't like, what was that? So